Hey everyone, today we're doing the thing. We're attempting to beat XCOM 2 War of the Chosen with only rookies. Originally this was going to be a subscriber goal, but then there was that whole thing with my long war campaign getting sent to the Shadow Realm, so now we're doing it early. And of all the XCOM challenge runs I've attempted on this channel, this is the one I'm thinking may very well be genuinely impossible. So let's cover the rules and then we'll get into the run. We're playing on Commander difficulty, we're playing on Honest Man so we only reload in the events of misclicks or glitches. Though fair warning, there was actually one exception to that rule during the run because I did something really silly. So to the turbo virgins who were bothered by that sort of thing, be warned, it is gonna come. And of course the most important rule, we're only using rookies in combat. Now one question you may have, can we use rookies on covert ops? And the answer is no. That's the way I've always done it with every other solo class run, so I figure we should keep it the same for these guys. And then the next question, what can rookies actually do? And the answer is not much. Now all of your soldiers in the game start out as rookies, where they can only use utility items and take a standard shot with the rifle. The whole point of the game is to rank your soldiers up to give them more specialized skill sets. We're not going to be able to do that. Plus, these guys' aim is absolutely horrible, so they're going to miss a lot. They also have very low HP, so they're going to go down really quickly. To summarize, rookies suck. The attempt you're watching here is I think number 4. I skipped the first 3 for the sake of brevity. And in those others, we lost soldiers on either the first or second mission. Now don't get me wrong, we are going to lose troops this run, that's inevitable. But I did want to get through at least the first few missions with 0 losses. I'm thinking that should be possible, provided we don't get absolutely horrible RNG. And the thing with losing rookies is that while we can replace them quite easily, they do still cost supplies. Supplies that we're desperately going to want to use for other things. So I really want to avoid those early losses, hence the couple of restarts. Now as far as winning Gatecrasher goes, it's really just a matter of RNG. If we score a map that has an easy to reach elevated position, we can exploit the height bonus and we should be fine. Without that, well, it makes things quite a bit tougher. And so we just keep doing this mission until we get the luck that we need. And you'll see here I have the Commander's Choice mod installed. The reason I'm using this mod in that in the regular game it is actually kind of easy to accidentally promote a rookie. Like you can just click the wrong button and they'll get that promotion. And this mod is going to help me avoid doing that. Now, as we enter the strategic layer, the first building I go for is the Resistance Ring. Some covert ops give rewards that can level up our soldiers' stats. Normally, we could level them up by increasing their rank, but obviously that's not possible this time. So these covert ops are pretty much the only way we have of improving our troops' stats. Alright, second mission. Leeson is here to do his usual thing and miss an 82% shot. And I'd have expected nothing less from this guy. This means the sectoid that we fired at lives. Now fortunately it only raises a zombie. Unfortunately there's a second sectoid and it takes aim at Jojo, sending him into bleed out. So while it's good he's still alive, we don't have a medikit. And this wasn't an oversight on my part. I figured loading our rookies up with grenades was a better use of utility space than a medikit. I only swapped out one of our frag grenades with a flashbang. So it was a deliberate choice, but it hasn't paid off here. Now we can save Jojo, but it's going to involve having someone carry him to an evac zone. And the maths there doesn't really work out well for us. We'll be down to 2 rookies left on the field. We'll lose Jojo and the person who evacs him. And we've still got the third pod out there somewhere to deal with. And the thing is, we really want to win this mission to obtain the engineer that we get as a reward. So it's up to Nuck Chorus and King Nukem here. These guys have their work cut out for them. Now we have 1 turn left to hit the objective and we move up on it with Nukem. Of course, this triggers the last pod of a captain and trooper. Now, Nukem cannot attack since he needs to spend his second action hacking or we're going to lose that engineer. So we have one single attack with Chorus we can use this turn. Maybe he can pull off some magic. And yeah, he rolls good damage and he one-shots the trooper. This is brilliant. Now we're only going to receive one attack from Advent instead of two. Nukem gets hit, but he hangs on with a single point of HP. Now this battle is going to be decided this turn. I leave Nukem out of cover. If we cannot down the captain right here and now, we're probably losing a rookie next turn regardless. Ignore the cover, get the flank. And Chorus lands a crazy 6 damage crit, so the captain is also down to 1 HP. And this is perfect since Nukem still has his grenade. So he can ignore the 82% shot and instead go for the guaranteed elimination. And even better, using the grenade will get this civilian caught in the crossfire. With victory achieved, we have our first engineer. A pretty close call here, but our rookies pulled it off. Now before the next deployment, the resistance ring is operational. And there's a couple of things to note here. One, you'll see contacting the Templars is locked behind a sergeant rank. So we won't be able to do that for the entire game. Now going in, I knew one of the 3 factions would be cut off to us in this run for this very reason, and that's why I deliberately chose to start with the skirmishers. I think they have the best resistance orders for this particular challenge, mainly slowing down the progression of both the Chosen and the Avatar project. Now of course there's no guarantee we're going to get those particular orders, but there is at least a chance. The other thing of note is the main operations we're looking for are anything that can increase our soldiers' aim or HP stats. Aim for obvious reasons, we want to be able to actually land our attacks, and HP to tank damage. I remember the first time I played War of the Chosen, I had this ranger who finished the game with almost as much HP as a sector pod since I had sent him on so many covert ops. That guy was a beast. And I would love to have a similar thing here. Someone who can safely take multiple hits and we don't have to worry about losing them. So that's the plan long term. Now as we deploy on the 3rd mission, I've given Leeson the Tactical Legacy Pack rifle. It gives the user a slight aim boost, which is better than nothing. I've also bonded Leeson and Jojo, and I suspect bonds are going to be vital to our success this run, so I'm just trying to bond soldiers who have high willpower and high compatibility. Willpower is actually the only stat that's randomized in this game, well besides Psionic ability, but we're not using that. Movement, aim, etc., they're going to be identical for all of our rookies. So the reason we're prioritizing will point is not because it's particularly important, but it's the only stat that actually changes between our troops, so we might as well maximize it. Now this mission includes the Lost sitrep and we're facing both the zombies and Advent. Now while this scenario is more difficult overall to deal with than just having the Lost, there is some really good news about this mission, and that's that there's no time limit. So the initial strategy is to just sit back and allow the 2 enemy sides to attack each other. Now this does work for us as both the zombies and aliens start taking losses. However, the usual problem arises. The Lost are just too weak, and Advent send them all to the Shadow Realm before too long. So it's going to be up to us to finish these guys off, and when we do finally break concealment, we have the high ground. Plus, Advent aren't able to scatter because they've already activated from the Lost. These 2 things mean that positioning is totally in our favor and our rookies can use this advantage to smoke the bad guys pretty easily. Now of course more Lost are going to spawn in, but the evac zone is actually pretty close by, so we can get there quite easily. Now this mission does have recruitable soldiers, and I do grab one of them. Now she's not a rookie, so we're not going to be able to use her in combat. I just want to see if she's sergeant level, because if she is, that would allow us to use the same trick as the Psi operative run and get access to a squad size upgrade in the GTS. Now sadly, it's still too early in the game and she's a mere squaddie. Now that's honestly what I expected, but I figured it was worth checking just to be sure. So it seems for now we're still stuck with 4 soldiers. After that, of course, it's going to be the first Retaliation mission, and I'm just hoping we don't get the Assassin as the first chosen. The other 2 I think we can manage, but the Assassin will be brutal. Just anything but her. So in warps the first chosen, and it's the Warlock. Cool. Didn't expect that, did ya? We're able to eliminate all the lesser enemies minus the Faceless. It's still hiding out there somewhere. And the main way we achieve this is by using the Resistance people as meat shields. Now, it's not the most honourable strategy, I'll give you that, but we're using rookies. We need every advantage we can get. Now, I've set up an Overwatch ambush, and of course the Warlock moves exactly close enough to get line of sight on us while not triggering our Overwatch. Yeah, of course he knows exactly where to move to. Now it's okay, as he does summon in a trooper, so we can at least use the Overwatch on that guy. Too bad all but one of our shots miss, and the one that does hit inflicts minimum damage. So yeah, this was a pretty pathetic display by our rookies here. The Warlock uses Mind Scorch on Kiseki, but he actually resists the attack. That doesn't happen too often, so I think we were quite fortunate there. Now we dispose of the Warlock's sidekick, and then I just rapidly start moving up on his position. I figure we're not going to be able to Shadow Realm him this turn anyway, he's just got too much HP. So we're just going to surround him, which will hopefully give us a good shot or 2 on the next turn. The Warlock mind controls Green, who is the rookie I used in my very first challenge run, the Sparks Only video. He's back after like 5 years. Good to see you, buddy. I opt to Flashbang Green to hopefully make him miss when he attacks us, and using the Flashbang, that leaves us with only 2 troops left to target the Warlock himself, and that's pretty bad. Kiseki resists another Mind Scorch, and Green targets a Resistance member rather than any of our troops. So a really good turn for us, all things considered. I was expecting to at least take some damage, but we've avoided that happening. Now we are out of flashbangs to disorient Green though, so we just go all out on the Skullet boy. The faster we can take him out, the safer we'll be. But using rookies finally catches up with us, and we're just missing too many shots, so we inflict barely any damage at all. Then this next part is pretty wild. The mind control on Green is about to expire, so that's a good thing. The bad part is it means the Warlock's mind control is off cooldown and he can use it on someone else. Now he targets Kiseki, and for the 3rd time in a row, this guy resists the Psionic onslaught. I had to go back and check the footage to see if I'd equipped him with a mind shield or something, but no, I haven't. Kiseki is just this good. So it's our turn again, and for the first time in a while, we actually have control of all 4 of our soldiers. Now the Warlock is hiding behind a tree, and as much as I'd love to move in for a flank, I'm afraid the civilians that are close to him may be hiding the Faceless. So instead we're just going to hang back, and we're just taking these 25-ish percentage shots. But out of 3 of them, we actually connect with 2. That is an incredibly good outcome, especially for this game. And of course, Kiseki is one of the 2 guys to make the shot. This guy is becoming the rookie MVP. So the Warlock is down to 4 HP, and of course this is going to send him hiding inside his safety bubble. Now that means no psionic attacks for us to deal with, so that's nice. Of course he does summon in a Spectral Stun Lancer, so there's another enemy that we got to deal with. And our good luck just runs out here. We're missing a whole heap of shots. And the issue here is the battle has been going so long, several of our rookies are out of ammo. That's forcing us to reload rather than moving to get a flank. But there's no need to worry, as this thing also chooses to target a civilian on its turn. Advent really don't want to attack us on this mission, and I'm certainly okay with that. So we annihilate the Spectral Boy, and an interesting interaction happens here. See, the Warlock is still in stasis, so he doesn't actually count as an active enemy. The game thinks the map is clear, and it reveals the hiding Faceless. Of course, immediately after that, the Warlock then comes out of stasis. So it's a bit annoying now we have both the Talkie Boy and a Faceless that we need to deal with at the same time. However, fortune is once again in our favour as the Faceless spawns pretty far away. So we should be able to finish the Warlock and then we can just wait for the Faceless to come to us. We move in with Unequip and he misses an 85% shot. I mean, I guess I can't complain, it evens out after hitting the 225, so whatever. But Green, he is able to make his shot through full cover, and just like that, we've taken the Warlock down. I'm very happy our rookies were able to defeat this guy, and I think we got quite lucky with the Warlock as the first chosen. Like I said, if it was the Assassin, I think that would have been a nightmare. As it stands, we actually pick up a flawless victory on this one. Yeah, we didn't actually take any damage. It was a close victory though. If we had lost even a single civilian more, the mission would have been a failure. But yeah, these rookies, nonetheless, they pulled off an incredible achievement here. Then we get a covert op to unlock the Decoys and Deceptions Resistance Order. This slows down progression of the Chosen by 33%. Remember how at the start of the video I was saying that could come in useful? Well yeah, we've actually picked it up really early into the game. This is super fortunate. And even more good luck on the next Guerilla op, we have the sit rep that prevents the turn timer initiating until after we've broken concealment. So that gives us a heap of time to set up a good ambush on the first pod. And it ends up making this encounter far easier than it would have been if we had to rush. And this is pretty funny. That first pod, it does survive our Overwatch ambush, and I was afraid the Lancer was going to charge up to our position and melee one of our units, but he actually doesn't. He just goes on Overwatch instead. And I thought this was really weird that it did this. But it turns out the sectoid that moved first actually blocked the gutter leading up to the roof. Now that prevents the Lancer from being able to reach us, so obviously no melee for him. This sectoid may have just inadvertently saved our lives. A very low IQ play from the skinny naked guy there. Now for the final pod, we've taken position on the roof of a much bigger building, and I'm able to use movement preview cheese to determine where the bad guys are without activating them. So we just start lobbing grenades at their position from beyond line of sight, and there's something you might notice here about a lot of these strats. Camping cheese positions, overwatching. I'm taking things slow and steady whenever possible. Now that's certainly not my preferred play style, in fact I really don't like it at all, but for this run I think that it's necessary, so I'm making that sacrifice. Now the sectoid does survive our grenades and it runs up to us only to get instantly overwatched into oblivion. And once again I am in shock at just how well that mission went. Alright, first supply raid. These are normally pretty tough. Let's see if we can keep up our good performance. And really, this one is a must-win scenario. Victory is going to provide us with materials that we desperately need to upgrade our guns and armor. So I'm prepared to sacrifice as many rookie lives as necessary to be victorious here. We've started equipping weapon mods by this stage, and while this should help us in theory, I immediately mess it up. I thought I had equipped Latimer with the stock that we picked up, so I take aim at the 1 HP Viper, thinking we have the elimination in the bag, but no, it turns out I gave it to her bondmate, Croman. And now that I've wasted her turn with a missed shot, we may not have enough firepower left to dispose of both of these enemies. And that has me quite alarmed since there's a purifier and our soldiers are clustered together. If he chucks a firebomb at us, well, this mission may as well be over at that point. Maybe Kaseki can land a big crit? Nah, min damage, only 3. So this is really bad. This purifier now has the opportunity to obliterate our entire team, but instead he just runs away. Well, that's lucky. I think he's attempting to fall back to another pod, but if he had decided to attack us, he could have caused some real damage. But whatever, that didn't happen, so let's go with it, and before this guy can reach any of his allies, we blow him to smithereens. That's what you should have done to us, my friend. Now the next pod I play a super risky strat. There's another purifier and I want to put it down as soon as possible, but I'm worried that running out to engage it could be a mistake. We may very easily activate even more enemies and make the situation worse. So instead we do the opposite. We fall back, away from the enemies. That's going to force them to join us up on the roof where we can hopefully pick them off more safely. However, this strategy in of itself is also pretty risky for a couple of reasons. One, it gives Advent the opportunity to attack. Now thankfully the only shot they take is a miss, so I really pushed our luck there, but it paid off. And I think pushing our luck is going to be a requirement to win this run. Now the second big risk is that if we cannot get line of sight on that purifier, it could ambush us and do some bad stuff on its next turn. But once again, the risk pays off and we find the purifier before he can find us, and we're able to take it down. Now normally purifiers aren't too bad, but with our rookies with low HP wearing Kevlar armor, I'm thinking fire damage could easily rip through all of their HP in 1 or 2 turns, so we do not want to be set on fire under any circumstances. Latimer has a 90% shot on the priest, the final enemy of this pod, and she misses. Just really not what I needed there. So on the enemy turn, the priest of course fires back, but she does manage to survive with a single point of HP. So that was really close, but if we had lost her, it would have been her own stupid fault, so I probably wouldn't have been too bothered about it. So anyway, we can get rid of the priest, and a great thing about this mission is that we have the sit rep that provides all of our soldiers the concealment ability. So this allows Kaseki to go scouting for the final group of bad guys while being hidden from them. Now it takes an age to activate this pod. I'm wanting to use an Overwatch ambush. It essentially gives us 2 turns of attacking these guys, and all the firepower we can get with our limited rookies is going to help. But the pod just is not cooperating. They just will not move into the line of sight of our unconcealed soldiers. So instead I go for a grenade to trigger them. Now the team is able to eliminate both the purifier and the trooper. That only leaves the sectoid. And this thing is the least threatening of those 3 enemies, and on its own, I don't think it's going to be a problem. We get another couple of insane shots, 2 35% chances in a row, and we make both of them. Well, roughly 35%. It's just beautiful. So the sectoid is down to 1 HP. We could attack with Latimer, but I decide not to. I mean, if she can't hit a 90%, she's not hitting this thing. Instead, what she can do is give a bonded action to Croman, and that allows him to use his stock, and even though he can't land another one of those 34% shots, it doesn't matter, we win regardless, the stock takes this thing down. And given that gigantic misplay I made with the first pod, this mission went way better than it had any right to. Yeah, I'm still in shock. These rookies are holding it down. Like, these guys are doing better than some of the solo class runs I've done by this point. This is absurd. Back on the Avenger, the next facility we want to build is the training center. This is way earlier than I would normally construct this thing. But it's required to level up our bonds, and I want to do that as fast as possible. Bonds are one of the only ways that we can get access to extra attacks from our soldiers, so they're going to be invaluable. Now up next is the Council mission that usually features the first mech deployments. I've talked about this one in a few videos, and we're using a tried and true strategy. We send in a bunch of nobodies with only standard weapons and grenades. No special items, no weapon mods, nothing that we have to worry about losing and not being able to get back if these guys get squad wiped, which they very likely will. And once again, it takes ages to initiate combat. There's no time limit on this one, so we don't need to rush. And the problem is that both pods are right in front of the VIP, and initially I try running around the map to get up throttling to kick in. I'm thinking this may allow us to separate the pods, but Advent just isn't taking the bait. They know they're camped on the objective and they seemingly have no intentions of moving. So it seems like we are going to have to activate both pods at once. Now I take any advantage I can get, we set up on some high ground. This at least gives our rookies a better chance to hit. And sure enough, turns out one of the sectoids does patrol into us, finally. And this sets off an Overwatch ambush that our Suicide Squad wannabes do really well in. All 4 Overwatch shots land, and we eliminate both the sectoid and the captain. Now we're sporting magnetic weapons by this point, so that's certainly helping. And of course, we have that supply raid to thank for having these weapons. Storm lands a huge crit to one-shot the Lancer, it's just beautiful. And then Trash lands a similar beatdown on one of the troopers. So now Advent are down to a single trooper remaining, and German guy actually lands a 28% shot to eliminate this guy. This is just bonkers. How are these rookies so good? These guys just effectively cleared out 2 pods using really only a single turn. I mean, one of our turn and one Advent turn. And yeah, I was genuinely in shock here. Now I think not having any mech spawns certainly helped us, but even so, these rookies are making things look way easier than the Long War II sharpshooters did. And that's honestly pretty sad. Anyway, we do start to get overwhelmed with the reinforcements on this one, and we're mostly just getting unlucky with the enemy placements and our Overwatch shots. We're missing a lot of Overwatch, and the enemies are deploying too far away from us. But our luck once again balances out, and we get an evac zone that's really close to our position, so it's easy enough to escape when we need to. On the next Guerilla op, a few issues arise. 1, mechs are now on the field. We're not getting away from them any longer. So that's not ideal. And what's even worse is that my overusage of Overwatch finally catches up with us. See, when we allow Advent to break our concealment on their turn by patrolling into us, there's actually a chance that they can shoot at us rather than scattering. Now we've been lucky avoiding that up until now, but here the captain finally makes an attack and it one-shots our boy Nukem, taken from us far too soon. But yeah, this was going to happen eventually, and it finally did. Now the good news is that not scattering leaves the captain surrounded by our rookies and out of cover. So we can quickly take revenge on this scumbag, but yeah, that's our first rookie lost for this attempt. And that means the rest of this mission we're going up against mechs with only 3 soldiers. I'm not loving our chances there, I'll be honest with you. Now from here, things get pretty interesting. The Warlock spawns in, and that's really bad, but at the same time, the field commander we need to eliminate patrols right into us. So we can finish him off very quickly and easily, and that means that we have no more time limit for this mission. We can take as long as we please. So I'm thinking it's time to camp. Let's let the villains come to us. The plan this time doesn't really work though. A Lancer and Viper activate, but they're still quite a distance away, too far for us to engage with effectively. And they could poison us or knock us out with a melee attack next turn. These are some dangerous enemies. On top of that, the Warlock also spawns a Spectral Zombie at the exact same time. So I'm thinking this one is a no-go. Instead, we're just going to grab Nukem's corpse and evac out. The reward was only some intel, so I'm not too bothered about losing it, and we've still stopped the Dark event. So all in all, not a terrible outcome there, but obviously our worst to date. And this is a run where, as the enemies get more powerful, things are just going to get more and more difficult for us. And we may be seeing the start of that right now. So the next mission, it's the second Haven defense. Thankfully, we do have plated armor for this one, and that not only gives us a health buff, it also allows us to carry 2 utility items per soldier, and that is invaluable. We no longer have to worry about choosing between a grenade and, well, anything else. Of course, the downside is that Advent are also advancing, and they're now fielding mutons. And not only are the aliens gaining more HP, which is bad enough, but their defense stat is getting higher too. That means it's harder for our rookies to hit them. Now to help counteract these things, my plan is to equip as many soldiers as possible with hair triggers and repeaters. Ironically, these are 2 weapon mods I normally never use. But here you can see Green's hair trigger proc, and it comes in quite useful. it allows him to finish off the enemy mech and a trooper on top of that. So my whole plan for this run is to just hope we can get lucky with RNG and either be able to one-shot the enemies via a repeater or to be able to deal extra damage by the hair trigger. And make no mistake, this is not a good strategy by any means. The chance of green making both of those shots and getting the hair trigger to proc was around 2%. And yeah, those are the kind of odds that I'm having to resort to in this run. We just don't have any better options. Now, another problem with my plan is that we're getting super unlucky with repeaters. We found plenty of hair triggers, but only a single repeater so far in the whole campaign. Now, we do kind of get a second one in the form of the TLP magnetic rifle, but that's still not going to be enough. We're going to need more than 2, and this could become a problem down the road. For right now, though, we are holding our own with our hair triggers, and we somehow pull off a flawless victory. Honestly, I think it mostly came down to using the resistance as meat shields. Again. But after this mission, I'm kind of not worried about repeaters as a far bigger problem dawns on me. Possibly the biggest problem of the run, and one that I was not expecting. Remember how I was talking about my bro with HP equal to a sectopod? Well, it seems that may not be possible here. Almost all of the covert ops by this point are locked behind higher ranks, as in we need to have a certain rank to be able to deploy on the operation. Like here, we cannot actually deploy on a single one. Now they will refresh after the next council drop, so we might get another 1 or 2, but for the most part we're going to be locked out of them. Now going into this run, I had expected to be gated out of hunting the Chosen. I knew that was off the table, and we are going to have to deal with all 3 of them on the final mission. But I figured the more random covert ops would be a viable strategy. And it turns out I may have been wrong about that. We really cannot do too many of these things at all, and not being able to improve our soldiers' HP or aim is going to make things much more difficult than I was expecting. And at this point, I'm honestly doubting the run is even possible. I figured if we had a tanky boy or 2, that could be really helpful in dealing with things like gatekeepers. And if we can't buff our troops, I have no idea how we're going to defeat the higher level enemies. So given this new development, I figure we might as well hit the Blacksite immediately. Initially my plan was to wait until we had a couple of guys who were bulkier and had better aim, but seeing as that's potentially off the table, I have no idea when or even if we're going to be able to do that. And the Blacksite is only going to become more difficult as the Advent Force level progresses. So the sooner we deploy and get this one out of the way, the easier it's probably going to be. Now we have obtained 2 exosuits, so that's going to give us some much needed extra firepower. Those rockets are going to come in really handy. And I'm also using a mind shield on cannon fodder. He has the lowest will, so we're going to try and use him to bait the Warlock's psionic attacks, to which our boy Fodder will be immune, of course. If we can just get the Scarlet Man to waste his turns, that works in our favour. So how's this one gonna go? Well, we get quite lucky initially as a pod of a Purifier and Muton patrol close to an explosive structure, so we can really kick things off with a bang, as it were. And we actually finish both of them before they can do anything. We then take up position on top of the nearby building and we can wait for the next pod to patrol into us. Once again, no time limit, so we can just camp here and deal with the enemies as they come. Now we burn through one of our rockets, but we can eliminate the pod without issue, so I think it was worth it. The second rocket though proves even more useful. We've got a full pod as well as the Warlock himself, all clustering around another explosive structure. So when we drop our rocket in there, it's a double explosion, both the rocket itself and the structure it hits, and these goons just get annihilated. Now the mech and Purifier go up in smoke instantly, and the Warlock is left out of cover and completely exposed. Plus, his groundling weakness makes him extremely easy for even our rookies to hit. Now, of course, cannon fodder doesn't let that stop him from missing a 96% shot. Dude is really living up to his namesake with that one. And the thing that's particularly offensive about Fodder's failing here is that him missing that shot is the difference between the Warlock going down this turn and surviving until his turn. Plus, the usual mech and trooper pod inside the building also activates. So instead of just the mech and 2 troopers to worry about, we instead have those 3, plus the Warlock, plus a Spectral Stun Lancer that he calls in. So this is far more annoying than it has any right to be. You suck, Cannon Fodder. Now there's no way we're taking down all these enemies this turn. 4 rookies versus 5 opponents. It's just not going to happen. Now we are able to merc 1 trooper and the mech, and to be honest, I'm pretty happy with that. The Lancer does damage Cannon Fodder, and in addition to him kind of deserving that, his Mind Shield prevents the disorientation effect, so he's still going to be good to go next turn. And 1 more turn is all we need to finish off the rest of the enemies without issue. And I'm just going to drive the point home one more time, and I know I've harped on it a bit, but 4 rookies have just cleared the entire Blacksite, and they only took a single hit in the process. And that hit is because we got really unlucky on a 96% shot. Like, I've had squad wipes on this mission on some of these runs. It is insane how well these rookies are doing. Like, I just cannot get my head around it. I was not ready for this. And these rookies aren't going to stop the domination here. See, we can grab the vial and actually make it to the evac zone all in the same turn. We got really lucky and the evac zone spawned quite close. So we are well and truly gone by the time the advent reinforcements show up. And yeah, this mission was honestly just kind of ridiculous in how well it went. Like, ridiculous in a good way. I should also mention any hair triggers, repeaters, or scopes that are available at the black market I'm buying up. The more of those items we can get our hands on, the better. Ultimately, I'd love to get the breakthrough research that would allow us to equip 3 weapon mods on our rifles, at which point a hair trigger, repeater, and scope combination would be amazing to have. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that we get that later on. The next Guerilla op features the surgical sitrep, meaning we can only take 3 troops. Now, I wasn't too salty about it since some of the earlier sitreps have really saved our hides, but this one is certainly going to make the engagement more difficult than it would have been otherwise. And honestly, this mission is pretty cringe. There's a pod of a Viper and a mech, but the 2 units are stupidly spread out. Like, the Viper is down in the waterway, while the mech is across the map on top of a building. And these things are apparently one pod patrolling together. And that makes it essentially impossible to merc both of them at once. Like, we engage the Viper in the waterway, and that means the mech isn't even in our line of sight after it activates. This was just obnoxious. So the mech's able to fall back to a different pod that's basically camped on top of the objective. Now we're running out of time to hit the objective, and I'm forced to make a choice here. Either focus on the objective or eliminate the enemies. I don't think we have time to do both. So I plant the evac zone down in a way that will allow Cannon Fodder to plant the explosives on the objective and then bail the safety all on the same turn. Worst case scenario, even if our soldiers are horribly slaughtered, at least we've prevented the dark event. There is a problem though. Drifter's not able to reach the evac zone as quickly as the others, so he ends up having to survive an Overwatch gauntlet that Advent has established. Our boy makes the mad dash, and sure enough, he avoids the hit. Now yes, once again we did miss out on the reward, but given we only had 3 rookies for this deployment, I was honestly expecting it to go way worse, so I am fine with this outcome. The next mission is a loot crate extraction, and we end up activating 2 pods at once. And before we can even finish dealing with these guys, a 3rd pod activates. Now Paul Green gets cloned by a Spectre, and the amount of time it takes to get rid of the clone, I think it's like 3 turns all up. And yeah, we have to target the clone directly. Normally I'd go for the Spectre itself, but it's just not possible. It's in cover and we can't hit it. Nor can we reposition since we're having to deal with an endless onslaught of Lost. we have to keep shooting at them and then reloading, and that leaves us very little actions left for movement. So yeah, this one went really, really badly. And so while the Lost are really annoying here, truth be told, they are also absorbing fire from Advent. So if they weren't here, our rookies probably wouldn't stand a chance. We're using these zombie boys as literal meat shields. So there's certainly pros and cons to their presence here. And almost immediately after we finally get rid of that clone, Kaseki also gets cloned by the Spectre. As in the same Spectre. This fight is taking an absurdly long time. I don't think I've ever allowed a Spectre to clone 2 people before. Thankfully on our next turn, Latimer can finally take this obnoxious thing down. But yeah, we're just struggling with a Spectre. Nonetheless, after about half an hour, our rookies do eventually get rid of all the Lost and Advent. Now they've taken quite a few injuries, but everyone is somehow alive. And we did only pick up a single loot crate, so we're not going to get many resources from this. And I could have evac'd earlier. Once all the crates were gone, well, what was the point of sticking around? But the thing is, I wanted the corpses. They give us a way to get more supplies if we want to sell them. They also give us research and the ability to build items that we may need. So even though this battle was bitterly difficult, I do think it was worth it. After that, it's a council mission to free a VIP. And I do a couple of things here. One, any valuable items like the exosuits are staying on the Avenger. I suspect at least some of these guys are going to meet their end on this mission, quite possibly all of them, so we don't want them taking our gear with them when they go to the Shadow Realm. Then once we deploy, I send the troops off in opposite directions in groups of 2. I'm hoping this might counteract up-throttling. And if you don't know how up-throttling works, basically, Advent will start moving towards your position even when you're still in concealment. Like they magically know where you are. Now, if we have 2 groups on opposite sides of the map, the AI may get confused about where to patrol the units into. And even if they do start homing in on one group, maybe that'll give the other group a clear path to the VIP. That's what I'm hoping anyway. And the plan actually seems to be working okay until we stumble into this pod here. This was totally my fault. I yellow dashed and yeah, that was a silly thing to do. And it causes every single enemy on the map to activate at once. And that's the downside of splitting up your troops. It often means having line of sight on more bad guys. That means they also have line of sight on you. So it's a mad dash to the VIP. We just need one person to be able to release them from their holding cell, and then they can start trying to escape. Now it's not going to be Storm though, as he gets cloned by a Spectre, and it's even worse for Mrs. Claus, as she gets one-shot and sent into bleed out. These aliens just murked Santa's wife. The audacity. Now Big Money is able to make it to the VIP and releases him, but it is her final act as she too gets sent into bleed out on the next enemy turn. It may not be in vain though, we just need to get the VIP out and the mission will be considered a victory, even if we get squad wiped. And check this out, our VIP here is 1 tile away from being able to reach the evac zone. And I gotta tell ya, I was really salty about this on stream. If only we could move 1 tile more. 1 tile. This is just brutal. Now there's a Muton up on the roof with our VIP, so we need to get him as far from that thing as possible. I run him down behind the building to break line of sight. I'm thinking then we can evac him next turn. Before that though, Wolf panics, so now we're down to 0 soldiers. Just great. But nonetheless, the VIP is alive. Advent can't get line of sight on him on their turn, so we're ready to get him out of here. But he's still 1 tile away from the evac. Seriously, this is so annoying. We try to run the Muton's Overwatch to get closer to the evac, but it's no good. The VIP joins the rest of the team in the Shadow Realm. Then Wolf gets mind controlled by a sectoid and the mission is done. We just wasted 4 soldiers for nothing. Well, technically 2 of them are still alive, just captured, but I don't like our chances of being able to rescue them. Soon after this, I have a really tough choice to make, and even looking back as I'm writing the script, I'm still not 100% sure if I made the right call or not. We have 2 Guerilla ops available. Yeah, not 3 since that previous mission caused us to lose a region. Now, Guerilla op number 1 will prevent the Left Behind Dark event from triggering. Now, if that activates, we're effectively locked out of Covert ops until it's finished. I don't want to risk losing anyone, especially because the people we're sending on the Covert ops, they're the people we're buffing their stats, so they're the ones we definitely don't want to lose. The other way of looking at it is the amount of Covert ops that we can do is so limited anyway that missing out on them may not be a big deal at all. Then we've also got the second Guerilla op that has the Horde sitrep, so no advent, only lost. It should be a reasonably easy victory for us, and it's also the first mission in the Assassin's territory, so she is guaranteed to be there. And while her presence is a bad thing, as she's definitely going to make the mission more difficult, facing her with just Lost would probably be much easier than trying to take her on when Advent's there. So it might be a good opportunity to get her first encounter out of the way type of thing. So yeah, I'm really torn here. Which one do we deploy on? And ultimately, I decide for the riskier strat of doing the first Guerilla op. Covert ops are literally the only way we have to improve our troop stats, and yes, we may get only useless Covert ops, but the possibility does exist that we get some good ones as well, and I really don't want to lose access to them for the next month or however long it's going to be. Just that slim chance that they will help our soldiers become stronger, I need to desperately grab onto that with everything I've got. So I hope I don't end up regretting this decision later, but that's what we're going to do. So we're on the mission and we get some absolute nonsense with line of sight. Green runs through this path here, you can see it quite clearly, he moves through the area, there's no new enemies to worry about, it's all good. Kaseki then moves through a similar path but is actually 1 tile behind from where Green ran through, and somehow that activates a pod. Yeah, being 1 tile further away from them activates them. And the really annoying part about this is Kaseki was the guy I moved last on our turn. I figured it was a guaranteed safe path, but apparently not. Sometimes this game is really cringe. So the enemies get their turn just like that, and of course the Stun Lancer knocks out Green. Again, cringe. So a mission where we seemed to have the upper hand is just like that, now a total disaster. And it's all because of the jank. Man, that's annoying. But regardless, a change of plan is in order. We destroy the transmission tower and then evac out. We're even able to take Green's unconscious body with us, so we've stopped the dark event, but we miss out on the mission reward. So overall, it did turn out okay, but I was certainly getting frustrated with the run at this point. That's 2 missions in a row now that have gone completely off the rails. But things are about to get worse. The avatar progress fills and we're now on a countdown until we lose the game. We have a retaliation mission and we can reduce the avatar progress by using our skulljack on a captain. And sure enough, the Shadow Chamber is telling us that a captain will be deployed on this one. The problem is the assassin is also going to deploy. You know how I didn't get that engagement with her out of the way before? Well yeah, she's gonna be here instead, so maybe I should have faced her on that Guerilla op. We're immediately accosted by a pod of a mech, Stun Lancer, and Berserker. Now that's a fair bit of HP to deal with that Berserker. Now thankfully by this stage we have a level 2 bolt caster and it has blue screen rounds, so Lee Sin can easily one-shot the mech. And as for the Berserker, I'm just hoping for the 10% proc of the TLP rifle's repeater. But of course we don't get it. I mean, it's a really small chance to happen, so I wasn't expecting it. It was just wishful thinking. Now we can use the Skull Mine on the Stun Lancer. If it connects, it's a guaranteed one-shot. It's been a while since I've used this ability, and I forgot that it has a chance to inflict feedback damage. So Latimer does indeed take the damage, and it's quite a bit. 4 HP. And for our rookies, that's quite a bit of health. Now, it's probably still worth it to get rid of the Lancer, but yeah, we do need to be careful with Latimer. She's in a precarious position now. Then we get super lucky and the Berserker misses with its melee attack. That doesn't seem to happen too often, but it did here, so thank goodness for that. Then on our next turn, we can eliminate it. So we push on, and I'd really like to get our hands on that captain. Even if after that we evac out, if we can just take out this codex and get the Avatar project under control. Of course, the captain is on the other side of this exposed bridge with barely any decent cover. So yeah, using the skulljack here, it's not going to be easy. And a long-range firefight ensues, and, well, remember that feedback damage Latimer took? It catches up with her.
No! I'm not! We're losing people down here!
She probably would have been able to tank the damage at full HP, but not here. And you might think my positioning of the troops is a bit strange, and it is a bit strange. I'm trying to keep the soldiers adjacent to their bond mates. That's going to help them resist the psionic effects of the assassin's attacks. So I was a bit limited with where I could place these guys, and that certainly didn't help Latimer in this instance. So at this point I just decide to bail. As much as I would love to skulljack the captain, the assassin is going to appear on top of these guys at any moment, at which point our rookies are going to be like lambs to the slaughter. And this loss puts us in a really difficult position. It's another region we've lost contact with. The Avatar progress is still counting down, and we don't have enough intel to reach the Forge mission. I'm also not sure we have enough time or supplies to build a radio tower to reduce that intel cost. And the Gone to Ground Dark event has triggered, so there's no black market available. That means we can't even sell stuff to gain supplies to build the radio tower. So I think we may be in a bit of a doom spiral here. But then something quite helpful happens. Remember how we stopped the Left Behind Dark event earlier? Well, it turns out that was indeed the right play. We score a covert op we can actually deploy on that will give our mag weapons +1 damage. And around the same time this happens, we also unlock the extra damage for rifles as research in the lab. So once both of these things are done, our rifles are going to be doing +2 damage. That's going to be extremely useful. I mean, it'll be useful on the tactical layer. The timer's still running down. We need to skulljack a captain. Otherwise, it's game over. Who cares about the tactical layer? We get a council mission, so maybe there'll be a captain here. But no, it's the Horde sitrep. No advent here at all, let alone a captain. And I was definitely getting flustered here as I actually consider skipping the mission. I think I had just accepted defeat and I didn't see much point in continuing. The only reason I end up deploying is because I figure that intel as a reward could prove valuable. But there's an even bigger reward on this one that I totally spaced on. So we deploy, and it's the mission where we have to race to the VIP and get them out before the Lost gobble them up. I move Nukchoris out, he's got an exosuit on, and I'm hoping that 1 point of armor will help keep him safe. So our man sprints out to the front line and we secure the engineer. Now initially I start making my way back, but then Twitch chat has a really good idea. The unconscious soldier. They're probably a decently high level. And if we save them, we may be able to get a squad size upgrade, or maybe even 2. Having non-rookies in the barracks isn't actually against the rules. We're just not allowed to do anything with them. But their presence will allow us to buy the squad size upgrades in the GTS. So poor Choris has to turn around and head back into the Legion of Lost. I'm honestly not sure he's gonna make it out, and losing his exosuit would really suck, but I figure the reward is worth the risk. We need to try. And the main strat to keep him alive is just to run from ladder to ladder. Standing at the top of a ladder will cut off the Lost's access to us, and that usually forces them to take a longer route up to our position. So even if they can reach us, they normally don't have enough actions left to attack. Now the rest of the team is quite safe. They're camped up on a building and they're just thinning out the Lost's numbers as best they can, doing everything in their power to keep our boy Chorus alive. Even the VIP is standing atop a ladder, preventing the Lost from reaching the team. Everyone's putting in the work here. And the plan actually comes together. Chorus makes it out with the downed soldier. This man has survived a journey across the entire map while being completely unable to defend himself. This is awesome. Now, Pinky the Grenadier is only a lieutenant. We need Captain to unlock both squad size upgrades. I think he's one level short, so that's disappointing. But even so, purchasing one, that's going to allow us to field 5 soldiers. That's a lot better than 4. And even if we could unlock both squad size upgrades, we actually don't have the money to afford them anyway. So it's a moot point. We're stuck with the one, but I'll take it. And so yeah, now we're packing some nice upgrades to our squad. We can field 5 rookies instead of 4, and our weapons are doing +2 damage. But you might still be wondering, how exactly are these improvements to the tactical layer going to help us? It's the strategic layer that's about to imminently lose us the entire campaign. And the thing is, we do have a possible way out. There's only 2 days left until the Avatar project completes, but there is a mission available, one that would reduce the progress of the Avatar project, an Advent facility. Now this one spawned much closer to our starting region, so we were able to contact it with the intel we had. So it sounds great, right? We've got a way out, the run is saved. Of course, there is a catch, otherwise I would have done this much sooner. See, this particular facility is home to the Berserker Queen. And how on earth are we supposed to beat a monstrosity like that with 5 rookies? Short of praying for a repeater proc, I have no clue. Also, the game is being absolutely stingy on the repeater front. We've still only found 1 the whole game, not including the TLP rifle, of course. So yeah, it's looking bleak. I'd rather do something like the Forge mission, since alien rulers are going to be a nightmare for us to deal with, but we have no choice. It's either punch our way through the Queen on this mission or lose the run. So let's see if we can do it. As the mission begins, I spot a building. Now, elevated ground may allow us to avoid the Queen's melee attacks, so we double time it to the rooftop. Once we're up there, we activate 2 pods at once. They were quite close together, so I don't think there was much avoiding it. And plus, doing it this way, we're able to hit 4 out of the 5 enemies with a rocket, so it's not too bad. Trash misses a 74% shot on a trooper, so we give him a bonded action, and he misses the 74% shot again. So this dude should miss 1 in 4 shots. Instead, he's missed 2 out of 2. Why is this game like this? So because of our bad luck, a sectoid and shield bearer survive, and the sectoid hits our boy Drifter. But this was honestly my fault, since I stupidly blew up the cover he was behind with a grenade. Anyway, he has an exosuit, so the damage is minimal, and then on our turn, we can easily dispose of the bad guys. Once they're taken care of, I have an idea. Now, I'm not sure it's a good idea, but it is an idea. See this explosive container on the side of the building? I lob a grenade into it. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. One, I'm planning to lure the Queen back to this building, so removing one of the paths to the roof means that we only have to worry about blocking 1 drain pipe instead of both. The second one we've blown up in the explosion. The other thing is, if any other enemies do move in on us, regular enemies with guns, they can actually shoot at these explosive structures if our troops are in the blast radius. It's very rare, but it can happen. So if we blow this thing up preemptively, then we don't have to worry about it being a threat to us anymore. I then set everyone on Overwatch except for Jojo. His job is to go and find the Queen and bring her back to our location. Now I'm yellow dashing with him, and this is deliberate. It's not just me being impatient this time. See, if he does run into the Queen, we want it to be as he finishes his turn. That will give the Big Mama one less reaction turn. So there is a method to my madness, but it also comes at great risk. If we run into a regular pod rather than the Queen, well, Jojo's not going to have the ability to fall back or hunker down or protect himself in any way, really. So of course you can guess what happens. We run into a regular pod. And a turret too. Just great. This is brutal. Now these alien scum absolutely hammer our boy Jojo. He thankfully survives, but he's on a mere 1 HP. Plus he's lost an action point from being stunned by the Lancer. He's too far away from the rest of the squad, and he has no real means of protecting himself from these enemies. So there's only one thing to do, we need to evac him out. Losing the rookies themselves isn't too big of an issue, provided we can extract their corpses, we'll keep the gear they have. And often their equipment is more valuable than the actual soldier themselves. The main problem with losing a rookie is if they have a bond. Max level bonded rookies are far more useful than those with no bond. And Jojo here has a maximum bond with Lee Sin, and Lee Sin is probably our top soldier on this run. We've been buffing his stats with covert ops. So yeah, make of that what you will. All our hopes lie on Lee Sin's shoulders. What could go wrong? But the point is, because of the bond, we want to keep Jojo alive. So he bounces out, it's up to the 4 remaining units to see this thing through. I just leave the squad where they are and I'm overwatching every turn. We do this for multiple turns. I'm expecting the bad guys to wander into us, they can eat some Overwatch fire, but they just don't show up. It seems like after they lost line of sight on us, they just kind of wandered away. And that means someone else needs to go and scout the area. German guy is volunteered, and this time I'm blue moving. The regular enemies have now been activated, so they're a bigger concern than the Queen. And can you guess what's going to happen here? Yeah, of course, we're going to run into the Queen this time instead. It's always the exact opposite of what I want it to be. Anyway, time to engage the plan. German guy needs to run like a madman back to the rest of the team. They're just setting up Overwatch as our German bro leads the beefy girl back to the trap. He reaches the building and he blocks off the drain pipe leading up, so I'm thinking we should be safe from the Queen's attacks, but it turns out I'm wrong. Drifter does still get hit by her. I guess it needs to be a second-story roof to avoid being hit. Maybe only certain attacks she has can hit us when we're at an elevated position. I'm not sure, but either way, this sucks. The fight is going to be much more difficult if she can actually attack us back. I was hoping to just exploit the cheese, but it seems that's not going to happen. We do have some other tools though, such as the Frost Bomb. We can use that to deny her a couple of reaction turns. And I deliberately time our shot so that Cannon Fodder can use the Bolt Caster as soon as she's unfrozen. My thinking is we might get lucky with a stun, and that's exactly what happens. So as soon as she's unfrozen, she's then stunned, she still can't do anything to us. So we do inflict some more damage on her. Sadly, we don't get the repeater proc, but I'm not too surprised about that. And I think we could have inflicted more damage here, but I actually forgot that she doesn't get reaction turns when we reload. Originally, that wasn't a thing with the rulers. If your soldier reloaded, that ruler got a reaction turn. Then the rulers were later nerfed to add in this feature. So yeah, if I had been able to manage the reloads better, we might have done a little bit more damage, but nonetheless, we've still taken over half her health when she runs away, and she only hit us once in the entire fight. Now given we had 4 rookies to deal with her, I'm gonna say that is a terrific outcome. We do eventually find that other pod that activated inside the facility. We're only able to finish the Trooper, so of course the Lancer and Archon are going to get their turn. We did also one-shot the turret with our last missile, I should mention that. Anyway, the Lancer comes running out of the building and we really need Fodder to hit his Overwatch shot. That's the only defense we have, but of course he misses. And this leads to German guy getting one shot to the Shadow Realm. And his bondmate Trash seems just as salty as I am as he goes berserk and just one shot crits the Lancer. So many one shots here. A fodder barely survives a hit from the Archon, but he does survive, and we're then able to finish it off on our next turn. I think that's all the enemies on the map that are dealt with. The game is telling me Advent is still getting a turn, but I'm hoping that's just a turret somewhere. Anyway, we plant the X4 and we're able to evac German guy's corpse, so at least we haven't lost any gear. So yet another close call, but we have indeed won the mission. That's going to reduce the avatar progress and keep this run alive. We are not out of this yet. We're still hanging on, if only barely. And then here I learn a horrifying development. Turns out rookies cannot equip PCS upgrades. I didn't actually know that, and that's a bit of a disaster since I was planning on relying on these things to help buff our terrible stats. Like I think we picked up one PCS that would give us 24 aim, and now we're not even going to be able to use it. I gotta tell you, that hurts what is left of my soul. So the next mission, we're able to finally skulljack a captain and we take on our first codex. Now since we have the blue screen rounds and the boltcaster combo, this thing is an easy one-shot. Well, not easy. Green has to make a 41% shot, but he does manage it, so it goes really well. This guy's a legend. What's not so good about this mission is the Hunter is debuting here, and he has immunity to explosives, so that's definitely going to make him more difficult to take down. He summons in 2 troopers and stuns Old Man, and as dangerous as this guy is, the worst part is actually the summoned troopers. See, the device we have to protect is down to about 4 HP, and if either of these jokers decide to target it, we're losing this mission. So Nemrus takes aim at the first trooper and he misses an 82% shot. That's really not good. Thankfully, he's bonded with Killzone, who grants him another action. So alright, redemption time Nemrus, please make this one. And he does. Excellent. So 1 down, 1 to go. I end up leaving Kaseki out of cover to take a 56% chance shot. It's literally the only shot we can get on this guy. It's desperate times for sure, and the gamble does not pay off as we miss horribly. So Killzone is the only guy left with an action, and he doesn't have line of sight. So it seems like we're in trouble, and at this moment I opt for a pretty bonkers strategy. See, Killzone may not have line of sight on the trooper, but he can get close enough to Old Man to remove his daze. Originally, I was thinking of just letting the Hunter take the intel and warp out. That would be safer for our rookies. But nah, Killzone shakes this old-timer from his daze, and the thing about Old Man is that he does have line of sight on the trooper. So this guy's got to make a 28% shot on that remaining trooper. And can you believe this? Old Man misses the shot completely. Not the epic hero moment I was hoping for, but it certainly suits XCOM, baby. However, my Hail Mary play does actually have an unintended benefit. Sort of. See, because I've moved Killzone towards Old Man, we now have this cluster of 3 soldiers that are all right together. And this proves too juicy a target for the trooper to resist, and he lobs a grenade at them. Now sure, being hit with a grenade is a bad thing, but it does stop the trooper from destroying the device, so we're still in with a chance to win the mission. And that's definitely a positive. So we are able to take care of the trooper, and the Hunter grapples to this really odd position where multiple of our units can flank him. So we move in to go full Terminator on the edgy boy, and Old Man misses a point-blank 86% shot. Yeah, maybe we should have just let the Hunter capture this dude. So yet again, it comes down to the wire. Most of our troops are injured and on low HP. Killzone is taking blood loss damage every turn. He's also the only one with any actions left. If he cannot take the Hunter here, we're probably losing somebody next turn. But not to fear, our boy does make his shot and we eke out another victory. Once again, these rookies are punching well above their weight. And at this point in the run, the missions that are worrying me the most are easily the council missions. It's the combination of having a turn timer plus not being able to evac out if things go sideways. Having that fixed evac location that really puts our rookies in quite a bit of danger. Or more importantly, it puts our equipment in quite a bit of danger. So when these missions show up, unless I think we have a good chance of winning, I usually decide to not take items like the Boltcaster or Frostbomb. It's just stock standard guns and grenades, and I kind of do that for most of the run going forward. So like this one, we have a Dark VIP mission, and my plan is to reach the evac zone first without initiating combat if we can. Once we're in place to escape, one of the rookies may have to sacrifice themselves to eliminate the VIP while everyone else heads to the evac. I just want to ignore the enemies completely. And the plan does seem to work. Enforcer is unable to move without blowing concealment, but everyone else is within a yellow dash of the evac. So I'm thinking he may have to be sacrificed, but everyone else should be able to make it out. Yeah, we've almost pulled this off. But there is a problem. The Berserker Queen is here. So of course, we're not going to be able to safely move to the evac during our turn. She's going to get reaction turns, and that's going to mess up our plans. And because of this, Green and Old Man end up getting stunned. Now Enforcer is able to eliminate the VIP, and of course this means he's not getting out of here. He cannot shoot and move in the same turn, but that was a given. A sacrifice was necessary to win this one. What annoyed me more is that the two stunned troops could have made it out if it wasn't for the Queen. So instead of 4 rookies being able to escape this encounter, only 2 of them were able to. Now Old Man does get mind controlled, so it could be possible to save him later, but yeah, Green and Enforcer, they bite the dust, they're gone. And the contrast between council missions and deployments where there's no time limit is like night and day. Like this supply raid, we just camp on some high ground in Overwatch, multiple pods patrol into us this way, and we just smoke them. We only have to start moving for the last pod on the map, and for that one, well, we still have all our rockets available because we didn't need to use them, so we can just destroy these guys. So yeah, this mission was just so easy. This run is really full of ups and downs. The next Guerilla op though, this is the moment I've been worried about since the start of the run. Andromedons are spawning now, and just the amount of HP these things have, I'm expecting to be a real problem. Not to mention there's heavy mechs too. And the campaign could end up just being a matter of attrition on the tactical layer. Once the enemies have too much HP, we just may not have the sheer firepower required to keep on top of them. Now thankfully Leeson and the Boltcaster can do good damage to the heavy mechs. If he rolls max damage, he can actually one-shot them. Now on this occasion that doesn't happen, but he does score a stun, shutting the mech down next turn, so that's almost as good. As for the Andromedon, we do have the Frost Bomb, so that allows us to stop it for a turn while we whittle down its massive health pool. And it's not just the health, it's also the armor. But yeah, we end up disposing of this pod fairly easily, so maybe I was worrying more than I should have. Now I am worried about the number of turns left before the objective expires. We still need to get through another pod to reach the device that we need to destroy, and we're running out of time to do it. And while that's bad, it actually gets much worse as reinforcements are inbound as well. So there's a lot of enemies we got to deal with. We start taking damage and there's still multiple enemies active. And certainly part of the problem here is that our rookies cannot absorb very much damage before going down. Now I consider evacing, even to the point that I actually throw down the emergency evac zone. We've got line of sight on the device so we can destroy it and then book it out of here. But for some reason, that's not what I do. And I think it's a combination of a few things. Like, I want the corpses and the mission reward. Those things could be really important. But there's also a deeper, psychological or philosophical need that I have to win this mission. The thing is, we're not going to win this run by cowering away from challenges. If we just keep losing, both the tactical and strategic layers are just going to spiral out of control. And yeah, I just felt like we needed to win this one. I can't really explain it, but for better or worse, we're going to see this through. Now, somehow we managed to get rid of those lesser enemies, but the Berserker Queen is also here, and she's probably the corpse I want the most. And we actually end up in this position where her Muton bodyguards are right on top of us, they're just on the other side of this wall, and of course there's a hole in the wall which they're going to climb through to annihilate us on their turn. Now, we cannot risk relocating since the Queen may get line of sight on us if we do that. The reason we can see her is the location scout sitrep is active, so we have line of sight on the Queen, but she can't actually see us right now. And as long as she can't see us, she doesn't get any reaction turns. That means we just need to stay where we are and try and take out these mutons. Problem is, our hit chances are usually under 50% against these guys. So needless to say, we can't take out the mutons. There was an attempt, just not a successful one. Now on their turn, the first one just uses suppression. I have no idea why it doesn't use a grenade. Our troops are clustered super close together. I'm thinking maybe the second one is planning to throw a grenade. I think the game does max out how many grenades the enemy will use in a turn, or how many explosive attacks anyway. But regardless of the reason, I'm good with it. We can deal with suppression. Because the thing is, the second muton we actually put down with Overwatch fire. So even if it was planning to lob a grenade, it's not going to get the opportunity to actually do it. Leeson and the Boltcaster are saving our hides again. So it's our turn once more, and we've somehow taken no damage. I cannot fathom how that happened, but what happens next is even more absurd. Jojo takes a 44% shot on the muton and he hits, removing the suppression. But that's not even the best of it. Get this, his hair trigger procs, so we get to take another 44% shot, and he makes that one as well. And the chance of all those three things happening is, again, about 2%. So the mutons are gone. And here on stream, I actually started laughing as it dawned on me what's just happened here. It's now just us and the Berserker Queen. All the other enemies have been sent to the Shadow Realm. And not only that, she doesn't have line of sight on us. There's a wall between us and her that she can't see through. So we can relocate to essentially wherever we want. She's just going to stand there uselessly until we're ready to give her line of sight and give her a reaction turn. We have complete control of this engagement. Now, we have no right to be in this position, but somehow we are. And I decide we're going to head back to the starting area, as that has some elevated ground that I'm hoping we can exploit. Now, we've learned that she can still hit us with some attacks, but I'm thinking maybe she can't use all of them, so using that height advantage is still our best approach. So once we're on the high ground, we send Jojo out to draw her attention. The rest of the crew is on Overwatch, and as she charges forward, Fodder's repeater procs and he executes the beast. And I think that was only a regular one, so that's like a 5% chance. Just like that, she's down for the count. And this is a glorious moment. Taking the riskier strat of not evacing has paid off 100%. I was right to stay here. We somehow pulled off the impossible. So it would be a shame if I did something to totally ruin this epic victory, wouldn't it? Well, remember that reward that I wanted? It's a captain ranked soldier. That allows us to finally purchase the squad size 2 upgrade. That means 6 soldiers on a mission. Given how well we've been doing with 5, man, I can't wait for 6. So that's going to be super helpful. The problem is, after we purchase the upgrade, I stupidly delete the facility thinking we don't need it anymore. I figure there's no upgrades to buy, so it's fine, right? We can just get rid of this thing. That's going to save us money on the cost of the upkeep. Deleting the GTS also removes the squad size upgrades that we've purchased. So we're back to 4 rookies per mission. And I didn't realize this would happen. So I do something here that I'm sure someone in the comments is going to complain about. I actually reload back to the Guerilla op. Now, is this reload legitimate? And for me, if I had known removing the GTS would have this effect, I obviously wouldn't have done it. And I think the game did kind of warn me that it would happen, but I didn't realise the full implications. So for me, this was a mistake caused by mechanics that I wasn't aware of. And for that reason, I figure a reload is justified. Now you may disagree, and that's perfectly fine. But the whole reason I play Honest Man is because I don't like reloading when things go badly. Missing a bunch of shots, losing a top soldier, stuff like that. I like to take the loss and continue on and see if we can still win. And here, that's not what's happening. This isn't something going wrong. This scenario has occurred because I didn't understand the mechanics. And that's a lot different to reloading because something just didn't go the way I wanted. So I'm okay with this. And really, the rules are all arbitrary anyway. It's just how I personally decide to do these runs. Besides, I've made it to July with only rookies. I'm not throwing this run away over a silly mistake like that. I've worked too hard and suffered too long. And if you do happen to think this is an illegitimate reload, well, you're in for a treat, and you're probably going to be saying that I got exactly what I deserved. Because see, this time on the Guerilla op, Fodder's repeater doesn't proc, so the Berserker Queen actually survives and escapes. So yeah, reloading has actually made things worse for me. It's all turned out horribly in the end regardless. And yeah, I was super annoyed at myself for deleting the GTS. Like, the most epic moment in the whole run, I've totally ruined it through my stupidity. At least I know to never do that again. With our 6 soldiers and now powered armour, we set off for the Forge mission. We've finally been able to make our way to that region. And the strategic layer is certainly going better than it was. The black market has returned, and we've got enough resources to actually be contacting multiple regions. Now the assassin will be on this one, and I am worried about it. But we get super lucky and Lee Sin just randomly stumbles into her. Now there's no doubt she would have attacked us on her next turn if we hadn't spotted her here. She's definitely close enough to do that. But because we did, we can easily destroy her. The only real clown moment is when Killzone misses an 89% shot. Lady Forehead has the revenge ability and shoots right back at him, and of course, she doesn't miss. And honestly, our boy deserved that shotgun blast to the face. That's what you get for being useless, buddy. But nonetheless, my biggest concern for this mission has just gone down with absolute ease. We push forward very, very slowly. We're just Overwatch creeping every step of the way. Now the sector pod is on the other side of the bridge. I've gotten a glimpse of it a couple of times, even though we haven't actually activated it. And I'd really rather fight this thing on a rooftop for the height bonus to our aim, but it's not to be. We cross the bridge and still can't find it. Turns out it's gone inside the facility. That's going to be a hefty repair bill. It finally patrols back into us, and I deploy a couple of explosives to shred its armor. It's really good we didn't need to use these against the assassin. It makes the engagement with the sector pod much easier. Now I use dual strike with Lee Sin and Jojo, and they inflict massive damage, and we actually destroy it really easily. Man, this mission is going well. Another pod patrols into us, and once again it's a heavy mech and an Andromedon. Now I make a bit of a misplay here, moving Lee Sin to a location I thought he had line of sight on the bad guys, but it turns out he doesn't. Because of this, we end up using the Frost Bomb to shut down the mech. And the Andromedon, while it does survive, it's in second form. I figure we can tank a punch, and there's a decent chance that it'll miss anyway. Turns out the shell has other ideas, and it doesn't even attack. It falls back to a different pod instead. So we're certainly okay for now. We deal with the mech and we pursue our prey, and this is pretty funny. The shell leaves an acid trail wherever it moves, and the shield bearer in the new pod actually gets caught in it. So we eliminate all the enemies in the pod except the shield bearer. It survives with a single point of HP, only to go down to the acid damage. So the Andromedon really messed up that pod. Bad luck for them, but it worked beautifully for us. Killzone grabs the stasis suit, and for some reason this causes his mask and hair to disappear. This is a truly horrifying development that I certainly wasn't ready for. Now, the newly maskless man himself can make it to the evac zone before the reinforcements drop in, but the rest of the team is too far away. So we are going to have to engage with these enemies, and we get some line of sight jank where this priest can see Jojo through the building and mind control him. It is annoying, but there's only 3 Advent soldiers, so we are able to deal with them without too much trouble. The bigger issue is that as soon as these guys are gone, a new group of reinforcements is summoned, and this one has a heavy mech that goes on Overwatch. So Leeson has to run the gauntlet. We've increased both his dodge and HP, so hopefully he's not going to get one shot, and it ends up not even mattering, the mech misses anyway. So somehow we've actually dominated the Forge mission. Have I mentioned I'm shocked by how well these rookies are doing? Next up is the Retaliation mission with chrysalids. Now I haven't really come up with a way to deal with those things yet, which doesn't bode well for the Psionic Gate mission. On top of that, most of the soldiers in the barracks are tired since we just did the Forge mission. So I decide we're just going to give this one a miss. I send Chorus in and immediately evac him on the first turn. This one takes place in our starting region, so we don't even have to worry about losing contact with it. The only drawback to losing this mission is that we forfeit 23 supplies of income. Well, that and all those massacred resistance people, I guess. Anyway, we have a council mission to rescue Old Man, so we're doing the usual thing of sending in the least valuable rookies with only basic equipment. If they can escape, cool. If not, well, we can always buy more rookies. Failed misses this 86% shot on a Spectre, and this thing has actually cloned one of our troops already, so not being able to eliminate it here is quite problematic. And from this, things just start spiraling. There's also a Codex, and they're quite bad to face when we don't have blue screen rounds. When we attack it, it's going to clone and just make things worse instead of better. And this all results in Corvin going down against the first pod. So we've lost a rookie. We are still able to defeat the first pod, and I figure at that point we're just going to start running. There's a sector pod somewhere on the map, and these guys have no chance against that thing. So we just have to hope and pray that we can avoid the enemies until we're close enough to the evac zone to escape. It seems our hopes and prayers were for naught. And then check out this horrifying image. The sector pod raises itself through the road to take aim at Joker here. This was a sight, I gotta tell ya. But the crazy thing is, Joker actually ends up escaping somehow. So we get Old Man out while only losing 2 rookies. And yeah, losing 2 rookies to save 1, that's not real good. But we have to deploy on these missions, otherwise the avatar progress is gonna spike. So all things considered, this went way better than I expected. Before too long, we once again need to reduce the avatar progress. So it's another facility mission, this time with the Viper King. But he's honestly a bit of a pushover. With tier 3 weapons, especially the Boltcaster, we're inflicting really good damage. We hit him with some Overwatch and then use the Shredstorm cannon on him, blowing up his cover in the process. I have purchased a couple of war suits by this point, hence the Shredstorm cannon. And from all this damage, the Viper King actually tries to run. But even that doesn't work out for him. We're able to stun him with the Boltcaster. Everything is just going wrong for this scaly boy. Now he does end up escaping eventually, but he's only got 10 HP left. So it shouldn't be too difficult to Shadow Realm him when he eventually resurfaces. We'll be waiting for you, Mr. Viper King. Alright, back to the strategic layer. We finally get the breakthrough research I've been waiting for the whole game. Modular assault rifles. This means we can load 3 weapon mods onto our rifles instead of the usual 2. And this is gonna be clutch, assuming the game ever gives us more repeaters, which honestly isn't looking too likely at this point. Then we have a Guerilla op, and this is one of those everything that can go wrong will go wrong scenarios. We lose concealment straight away to a turret on a rooftop. Now, being on a roof is normally a good place to be, but every now and then something like this may be waiting up there for us. And we've just gotten unlucky here. Now, with our concealment gone, the assassin spawns in, and she's picked up the Planewalker ability. So dealing with her is going to be an absolute nightmare. Now, we are able to skulljack a codex and bring in an avatar, and doing this may sound risky, summoning the final boss while the assassin is about, but we need to be making progress. This is going to help us keep the avatar project under control. I would much rather face one of these things than have to do another facility mission and meet the Archon King. And honestly, the avatar is actually really easy to dispose of. We use dual strike with Drifter and Cannon Fodder, and see, because Drifter has the Bolt Caster, these two do massive damage and they take it down just like that. It was not a problem at all. What is a problem is that all the pods on the map are clumped right on top of each other. So we activate, I think, 3 of them within 2 turns. Also, check this out. A Spectre clones Drifter and the clone has more HP than the original. How does that work? Oh yeah, and the assassin attacks at this very moment too. And my goodness, I was a salty boy here. Literally every single enemy on the map is now active. I'd really love to evac at this time, but one of our bros is trapped in stasis. Now leaving him behind would mean losing his gear, so I'd rather stay. Maybe we lose some troops, but if we can eliminate all the enemies, we keep the equipment, and I honestly think that's more important. And sure enough, we do lose cannon fodder to a grenade from a trooper. Then the assassin dazes another 2 soldiers with Harbour Wave. And once again, I'd really like to evac here, but Drifter has gone berserk from losing cannon fodder, so we can't control him this turn. So we're stuck here even longer. Now Croman scores a really lucky elimination on a priest. It's using Holy Warrior, and because Sustain doesn't activate, both units go down from Croman's attack. And somehow we do end up fending off all the lesser enemies. At least that's what I think. The problem is we use up almost all of our explosives in the process. That means we don't have many left for the assassin herself. Not to mention, she then summons in 2 lancers, so just like that, we've got another pod to worry about. Now Trash makes a clutch 46% shot to take down one of the lancers, and Drifter can then one-shot the other one with the Bolt Caster. And I did actually leave Kaseki dazed here. My thinking was it's better to just let the assassin gain some intel and then warp out. I normally like to avoid doing that since it's literally caused me to lose one of these runs in the past, but here times are beyond desperate, so I figure it's a necessary sacrifice. The assassin moves in to grab Kaseki, but she actually can't make the distance. Turns out Planewalker has caused her to teleport too far away from him, so she just wastes her turn running towards our dazed soldier. And this actually gives me an idea. Maybe we can exploit this. Maybe we can get her to waste more turns this way. The issue is, it's an RNG based approach. It all depends on where she teleports to, and we don't have much control over that. I think it has to be a tile that we have line of sight on, but beyond that, she could show up pretty much anywhere. Still, I figure it's worth a shot, so we stay and we engage her. She goes after Croman, and I had actually given him a sustaining sphere. This prevents him from going into bleed out. And I expected to use these things way more this run, but I think this was the only time it actually came in useful. Kinda crazy, even with rookies only, it's still better just to alpha strike and do as much damage as you can. Anyway, focusing on this mission again, the problem is the assassin is too far away and we have no one who can make a decent attack on her. And while it would have been good to keep the troops together, again, she has Planewalker, so we're having to spread out to hit her when she teleports to a new location. And to make a long story short, she ends up extracting intel from Croman. We're just not able to stop her. So we went through all of that for nothing. Should have just let her extract the knowledge from the get-go. But hey, at least there was an attempt. And honestly, this was a pretty frustrating mission. all the odds stacked squarely against us, and I'm honestly pretty impressed with myself that we only lost a single soldier. Now, we did have a max level bond with Drifter, so losing that really hurts. But even so, this could have gone a lot worse, all things considered. We soon have a loot crate mission. Now, by this point, we've picked up tactical analysis as a continental bonus, and it really saves JoJo's hide when we get a bad pod activation. Losing another max bonded soldier would have been really annoying, so we scored that ability just in time. The Viper King also returns on this one, and he just gets immediately obliterated by a Shredstorm cannon. So the dude is gone for good, and we can wear his corpse as a suit of armor. This campaign has certainly not been his best showing, that's for sure. Afterwards, it's a Guerilla op, and we have our first encounter against a Gatekeeper. Now, we get it down to 1 HP, and I'm thinking we've got this in the bag. Old man has a plasma grenade, so we should be sweet. Except, apparently, he cannot throw his grenade through this hole in the wall. Yeah, this giant gaping space in the wall right here, it's apparently too tight for a fist-sized grenade to fit through. Now, he can shoot through the gap and miss a 55% shot. Of course he can do that, but he can't throw a grenade. Man, this game is infuriating at times. And this nonsense leads to a whole bunch of our squad getting hit with the Gatekeeper's AoE. Then on the next turn, Old Man can throw his grenade through a very similar hole in the wall a few tiles over. Because of course he can, it makes so much sense. Now the Lance is able to attack Ligmac, and because of the damage that he sustained from the Gatekeeper, we lose him. If he was on full health, I think he would have been able to tank the hit. Yeah, this was really irritating. Alright, let's move on. I mentioned Chrysalids and the Psionic Gate earlier, so we'll deploy on that one. And I do have a plan by now that I'm hoping will work, but we don't even get to try it. The very first pod of 3 Advent soldiers just overwhelms us, and Lee Sin gets knocked unconscious by a stun lancer. And this was a bad play from me. The pod was a Captain, Lancer and Purifier, and for some reason I prioritised eliminating the Captain over the Lancer. This KO here on Lee Sin demonstrates perfectly why we should have gone for the Lancer first. But nonetheless, the overall point remains, we don't have the firepower to eliminate 3 Advent soldiers in a turn, with 6 rookies and max level guns, so that is really not a good sign for the rest of this run. However, it's actually not a big deal in this particular instance. See, we can destroy the Lancer and then actually evac out of the mission. Then we can redeploy on it as soon as we're ready. And see, Lee Sin is a vital part of my plan, so we're gonna have to wait a few days to heal him up, and then we'll give it another go. Alright, take 2. Let's hope we can get past the first pod this time. Now you can see here, Lee Sin has 39 dodge. That's all from covert ops we've been sending him on during the campaign. Now dodge isn't my preferred stat to buff, but when it's between that and nothing, the choice is pretty obvious. But see, the thing is, the Viper armor also gives another plus 40 dodge, so Lee Sin is actually at 79 dodge. That's basically an 80% chance of dodging any attack, unless it's a 100% chance to hit. Those, I think, cannot be dodged. Anyway, the point is, Lee Sin has a really good chance of dodging attacks from any buried chrysalids. So we load him out with a medikit to make him immune to the poison, and he's gonna be our meat shield. Now, using our literal best soldier as a meat shield may be an unconventional approach, but this is an unconventional run. Now this time, the first pod goes much better. We have the high ground on the roof of a barn, and I set everyone on Overwatch except Croman. He uses a rocket to activate the enemies, and then we just cross our fingers and hope the troops make their shots. Thankfully they do, and the Advent lackeys are disposed of. Then we just move forward really, really slowly in conga line formation. The idea is we put 5 troops on Overwatch, and then we push forward just a few tiles with Lee Sin. And just like with that first pod, we're really hoping our troops land their Overwatch attacks. And if they don't, well, hopefully Leeson will be able to dodge and take minimal damage. Now the plan is already going to take ages, and the reason we want to move so slowly is that we only want to activate one chrysalid at a time. But the thing is, it becomes even further prolonged as the hunter starts taking aim at Leeson with his tracking shot. So sometimes we can't actually move forward, we have to move to the side to keep Leeson out of the line of fire. Now we do also have a battle scanner, and we can use that to reveal some of the lids. And in my prioritizing of eliminating these enemies, I actually forget about the tracking shot. And I know I just mentioned it in the video, but playing through the game, the whole process was taking a really long time, and I'm probably getting a bit impatient by this stage. And yeah, I just forgot about it. So anyway, Leeson ends up taking a hit, and of course, it's not a dodge. Thankfully, that medikit does come in handy. And even after we've used it to heal, it still makes him immune to poison, so that's really useful. Then things get a bit hectic. We actually arrive at the Psionic gate far sooner than I planned. Like, I thought it was still a distance away, but no, we've reached it, we're here. So now, anytime we move anybody, I've got to take into consideration the buried chrysalids, the hunter's tracking shot, and the potential of activating the gatekeeper. So we keep inching forward, but none of the lids nor the gatekeeper are triggering. And after several turns of this, I decide I've grown tired of waiting, we're just going to move Leeson up to activate the gatekeeper. We need to make some progress here, so let's just bring the big boy in so that we can get rid of it. Well, it doesn't actually activate. Apparently, we still don't have line of sight on the gate. I have no idea how that's possible, but apparently that is the reality. Of course, a chrysalid does activate, and I haven't put anyone on Overwatch since I was expecting to have to deal with the big egg. I wanted those action points available to be able to take that thing on. So Nemrus is now poisoned, and we've already used our one and only medikit. Things are certainly not looking ideal. On the next turn, we do activate the gatekeeper, and of course a burrowed chrysalid also emerges at the same time. Now fortunately it misses with its attack, so we're okay. As for the gatekeeper, these things are a problem for our rookies since their defense is so high. It is very difficult for our low-level soldiers to be able to hit these things with their shots. But we have got some tools at our disposal, namely the Shredstorm Cannon and EMP bombs. Our boy Nemrus drops his EMP to finish off the big egg, and then he's able to evac out before he falls to the poison damage. So he is alive, but we now have only 5 soldiers to finish this mission. And we've still got the Hunter to get through. Now he's picked up the Beastmaster ability, and I was really afraid he was going to call in Berserkers, but we get super lucky and it's actually faceless. Now not only do these things have much less HP than a Berserker, if we can win this battle, these things are going to give us the resources we need for our first Mimic Beacon for the whole game. The Hunter does have a surprise in store though, as he just instantly downs Chroman and sends him into bleed out. And I think I had misclicked and left Chroman out of cover, so that certainly didn't help. Could have reloaded, but that's a lot of work. Instead, we're just going to finish this fight quickly so that we don't lose our rookie friend. We freeze one of the faceless and eliminate the other, then it's just all out on the Hunter. And we're able to use bonded actions to allow Jojo to shoot twice. That ends up being the difference maker, as Trash, with our final action of the turn, takes the Hunter down. So it was really close, but we did defeat this guy in a turn, and we honestly got lucky here again, as the Hunter chose to take up position in a really weird spot, like a spot that made it easy for us to attack him. He's done that twice now. Not sure what's going on, but I am fine with it. Now that remaining faceless that was frozen, it's easy to murk, and I'm thinking the mission should be done, but it's not. There's still some hidden chrysalids lurking about. So we're going to have to carry Chroman to the evac zone, and once again, carrying a body removes our soldier of his mask and hair. Now this has never happened before this run. I have no idea why it's happening now, but it's disturbing. Anyway, the bigger problem is with both Trash and Chroman evacing, we're now down to 3 soldiers. That's not a lot of firepower given how scary chrysalids can be. And what proceeds here is absolute garbage. One of the chrysalids we uncovered with the battle scanner all that time ago has apparently been wandering around the map ever since. And this is way worse than it being underground. See, when a chrysalid is burrowed, it stays in the same location, so finding it is just a matter of exploring the map. But this one, because it's moving, we could, in theory, move around the map for the rest of eternity and never cross paths with it. Especially when we have so few troops to be able to scout the area with. And it certainly feels like an eternity. What's even worse is that there is also one chrysalid still burrowed that I wasn't aware of. So the sound cues the game provides about the enemy's location are coming from both sides of our troops. Now I'm thinking it's just the one lid moving around, and so I'm going back and forth between the two cues. We end up running around in literal circles for an insulting amount of time. It ends up taking 15 minutes just to find the last of these stupid things. And 15 minutes may not sound like a long time, but for comparison, some guerrilla ops are shorter than that, like the entire mission takes less time. I mean, think about it this way. Imagine just clicking on random spots on your screen for 15 minutes non-stop. It is super boring, and I got really frustrated here. Chrysalids are just scum. So as we deploy on the next guerrilla op, I am in a foul mood. So much so that I actually forget to equip our heavy weapons on the warsuits. So we're not going to have Shredstorm Cannon for this one, just standard rockets. Now that's not terrible, rockets are still pretty good, but yeah, would be nice to have the Shredstorm. Anyway, we head up to the roof and I am horrified to find a pod up there waiting for us. Now luckily it's a big building, so the enemies are far enough away that we don't lose concealment. And at this point I'm starting to worry about the time limit. The Dark event will add progress to the Avatar project, so even if we don't win the mission, I want to at least make it to the objective in time. And what I do next is a pretty egregious misplay. I run Drifter forward and he activates a sector pod. But that's not even the worst part. Obviously the pod on the roof is going to activate, there's not much we can do about that. But the thing is, there's another pod on ground level on the opposite side of the building that some of the troops at the back still have line of sight on. So that one activates as well, and I think that's the whole map we've just triggered. So the really silly part here was that I should have moved those soldiers at the back up further first. If I had moved them away from the edge of the roof before I moved a Drifter, we could have broken line of sight on that third pod. 2 groups of enemies, that may be manageable, but 3? Yeah, it's not good. And what happens here, I don't even want to talk about it. It's too upsetting, even now. So I'm just going to show you how this one goes down.
Down one! Samu! Did what I could!
Just brutal. Like soul-crushingly brutal. We just lost all our exosuits, warsuits, the frost bomb, the Viper King armor, the boltcaster, and both of our repeaters. All of that precious equipment that has been keeping us alive is gone forever. And at this point, let's be realistic, the run is most likely over. In my emotions here, I was beyond salty. I was a defeated man. We've come so far. I've worked so hard to keep this run going, overcome so much nonsense. We've beaten most of the story missions. The game is just about done. We're just waiting to complete the story research. This run has gone far better than I ever imagined it would. But without that equipment, I do not see any way that the final mission is winnable. And yeah, I was so demoralized here. Like, I put off writing this script for several days because I just didn't even want to think about it. The thing that kills me the most is that this loss was totally avoidable. It's not like the game actually became too much for our rookies. It was possible to win. But now victory for the whole run has likely slipped away because I messed up. One mistake has cost so much. This failure I can only blame on myself. So at this point, my goal for the run kind of changes. I'm not going to give up, I'm not going to call it quits, but also I don't think we can win. So now I just want to see how far can we actually make it. I figure there's no way on earth we can beat the final mission, but maybe we can at least reach that mission. If we can do that, I won't be happy, but I'll be a little bit less miserable, I guess. Perhaps content is the word I'm looking for. Anyway, it seems even that goal may be too lofty, for there is still another story mission we haven't done, the base defense. And if we lose this, it's game over. So let's give it our best. What else can we do? You'll see here we have exactly 10 rookies in the barracks. Now, including soldiers who have been captured, I think we've lost around 30 rookies by this point. Certainly a record. But in this darkest hour, I'm actually kind of happy we have only 10 troops. See, we can deploy 6 ourselves, and Bradford will send out another 4 as backup. We get exactly 10 soldiers for this mission. Because there's only 10 in the barracks, we're actually guaranteed to know what soldiers we're going to have available on the mission. And that makes managing inventory really easy. If we have an item that I want, I can give it to one of the backup soldiers, knowing that Bradford will deploy them sooner or later. We don't have to worry about giving a really good item to a soldier and then having them not show up on the mission. So there is actually an advantage to such a small barracks in this particular instance. And as far as the gear goes, well, we did get a little lucky. See, we actually had a supply raid with the automated defenses sitrep before this base defense. That means that there were only robotic enemies on the map, and so I spent a huge amount of money, pretty much every last supply we had, on EMP bombs. That allowed us to win the mission by just lobbing grenades all over the place, no skill required. And even then, it was still a narrow victory, but nonetheless, it gave us some Elerium cores, so we have got another warsuit. Plus, remember how on that Guerilla op I forgot to equip the Shredstorm cannon? Well, we still have that too. So my forgetfulness actually worked to our advantage for once. As I'm loading out the squad, I figure we want to make use of whatever weapon mods we have. Now, we did lose the best ones, but we still do have some scopes and stocks, things that may help. And while I'm looking through the weapon mods, I make quite the unexpected discovery. We have 2 repeaters. Advanced repeaters at that. And I have absolutely no idea where these came from. To my knowledge, we had only picked up 1 the entire campaign. And I have been paying attention to this throughout the run. Like, I've been looking at the items that we picked up each mission. So I'm totally confused. It's as if these items descended straight from the heavens themselves into our inventory. I'm just wondering, how long have we had them? Have they just been sitting in there for ages and I didn't notice? This is crazy. My whole strat for the final mission of the game was to rely on repeaters. So now that we have these things, are we still in with a chance? Is there actually a slight possibility that we can come back from that squad wipe? Holy moly, let's go! Alright, so what's the strat? Well, see how we've got these 2 guys, Gold and Sarge? This is probably the first time you're seeing them in the video. They're new recruits, they have no bonds, they're never going to be part of the A-team. And check out their utility slots. An item I've literally never used in my over 2,000 hours of playing this game. The Refraction Field. This gives the user 1 charge of the Concealment ability, but it's a disposable item. Once you use it, you need to build another one if you want to use it again. So the plan is simple. The bonded soldiers with the best equipment are going to hold position at the Avenger. And we get this really weird situation as a Berserker gets murked, I think, faster than its animation can update, so it's just stuck in place running even after it's been Shadow Realmed, and it will continue running on the spot like this for the entire mission. And I did get a chuckle out of this. This is the kind of jank I enjoy. Now the task for these rookies is simple. Use Overwatch for free damage, use explosives to destroy most of the cover, limiting Advent's positioning as they advance on us, use EMP bombs and blue screen rounds as required to keep the heavy mechs at bay, and we're just playing 100% defensively. We can exploit the fact that in order to win, Advent have to advance on us. They need to capture our position. So we're just embedding ourselves here as best we can. We're going to hold the line, as it were. And even if we lose rookies, provided they get murked either on the Avenger platform or we can carry their corpse, we don't have to worry about losing any gear. Now, while this is going on, Gold and Sarge have the most important and probably least desirable job of quite possibly the entire campaign. They're going to use their refraction fields to gain concealment. From there, they can sneak up the side of the map while the rest of the rookies attract the Advent forces. 2 rifle shots are enough to destroy the Disruptor and allow the Avenger to escape. So these 2 lads break their concealment and fire on the device. Now, of course, the problem with doing that is that the pod on top of the Disruptor is going to activate. And how are our boys going to survive that type of onslaught? The answer is they're rookies. They're not. So yeah, poor Gold and Sarge here are being sacrificed for the cause. We're actually going to evac without them. There's just no way that they're going to make it back safely. And even before I started this run and I was just thinking about strats, this was always my plan for this mission. Have a couple of rookies with only basic gear, nothing we have to worry about losing, and some refraction fields. Use them to destroy the device and sacrifice them to allow the rest of the squad to retreat. I just think trying to fight across the entire map with rookies is too risky on this mission, especially with the amount of reinforcements that drop in. So our boys have been left behind, surrendering their lives so the run itself can live on. Gold and Sarge may only have had a small part to play in this video, but they've been absolutely crucial in keeping the campaign going. Also, look at this. They are still alive, just captured. So maybe one day our rookies will be able to save them. Either way, thanks bros. Your sacrifice has kept hope alive. And speaking of sacrifices, the Avatar progress has filled again. Now our only option is a facility mission, and none other than the Archon King is present here. Literally the most dangerous and difficult enemy in the game. Can a bunch of rookies best him? And honestly, I'm thinking, no, they cannot. Not in a million years. So we're going to use some supplies that we obtained from that automated defenses mission to purchase some new rookies. These guys and girls are being sent with only standard equipment on another Suicide Squad impersonation. We just need a single soldier to reach the facility and plant the X4. That'll keep the run alive. Anything beyond that doesn't matter. However many of these guys we lose, it's a price worth paying. Now on this one, I want to do my best to avoid combat, but sadly it's not possible. 2 pods cut us off. The only way to the facility is by going through them. So we let them patrol into us, risking the chance of taking a hit in exchange for triggering our Overwatch ambush. Thankfully Advent do not attack, so the plan works well. And out of all the enemies from both pods, only a single trooper survives. Now it does hit Sally, but she survives the attack. I'm actually really happy with our rookies here. They just stomped a heavy mech and an Archon with only unmodded rifles and plasma grenades. That is one heck of an accomplishment. The good times are short-lived though, as a 3rd pod patrols into us, and it's another heavy mech. Now that's a problem. These things can deal big damage and they're really dangerous. But somehow our rookies make 2 55% shots and a 60% shot to take the big robotic boy down. That is crazy good luck, especially for this game. Even better, the accompanying trooper takes a shot at Valdra, and even though she's out of cover, it misses its attack. So yeah, the RNG was really in our favour on that exchange. Now as we move up on the structure, we get a glimpse of the king, but he doesn't actually activate. In response to this, I immediately change direction and we head to the opposite side of the building. We're going to set up the evac right at the doorway. Maybe we can avoid this guy. Our plan is going to involve one poor soul having to go in and plant the explosive, and if we get even a glimpse of the king, well, everyone else is just going to bounce out immediately. So Average has the honours of being the volunteer and he moves in on the objective. And the Archon King is actually just above him outside the building, and he's floating sideways for some reason. Not sure what that's about, but he hasn't seen us yet. He is really close though, and so at this moment I kind of panic a little bit, and the bulk of our rookies are just going to bounce out. Now I would get Average to escape this turn as well, but of course he's one tile away from the evac zone. Now I can't really complain about it this time since I'm the one who chose that location for the evac. But anyway, the king then enters the building, and he's literally right above Average, a single tile off. But it's a new turn, so Average has both action points, and that's enough to reach the evac zone. Now the king does activate here once it gets line of sight, but of course, he's only going to move with his first reaction turn. So Average has a clear path to survival. He's able to evac out. And in retrospect, it may have been better to set up an Overwatch ambush here, get off some shots before we evac'd everyone out, or even just sacrifice these guys in a fight against the king. As long as they planted the X4 first, losing them wouldn't have been a huge problem, and they could have inflicted some damage on this guy in the process. And I don't really know why I didn't sacrifice them. I mean, we did just offer up 2 guys on the last mission, and that was pretty ruthless. So maybe I just didn't have the heart to get these guys slaughtered at this particular point in time. Plus, these rookies do cost supplies, which we are still limited on, especially if we want to rebuild all our lost war suits and other gear. But whatever the reason, the team has survived an encounter with the Archon King, and I consider that a good outcome in any run, let alone rookies only. I should mention here, I'm skipping over a lot of missions in this video. Some of them we win, some we lose, some we stop the dark event then evac out so we kind of win and lose. And we are taking losses on some of these missions as well. I think this will be the first challenge run video I've made for XCOM where I haven't covered every single soldier that we've lost. There's just too many of them, and a lot of them are the same scenario, a suicide squad getting sent on a council mission. And not all of them are eliminations either. Quite a few of our troops are alive but captured. Now, as usual, you can see the run in full on my archive channel. The link to that is in the description if you're interested. Fair warning, there is a massive amount of sodium to go with those streams. But the point is, there's a fair few more lost soldiers than this video may explicitly show. So I just thought I'd mention that. It's something to keep in mind as we proceed. And as we progress, we get this cutscene that I skip because I always skip them, but this one's a bit weird. I don't recognize it. Is this just a research cutscene? Okay, this might be a short stream, everybody. I was like, that cutscene doesn't look familiar. Now I know why. Oh dear, this is bad. I haven't played one of these chosen base defense missions since the expansion first came out in 2017. So we're talking 8 years. Now the Warlock did reach maximum strength in the previous stream while I was playing this live, so I did have a chance to go and watch a YouTube video of one of these missions to remind myself how they work. I figured it was likely that this was coming. So I'm not totally clueless about the mission, but I'm definitely nervous as it begins. Now we can deploy 2 teams of 5 rookies, and the problem is immediately clear. So many of our soldiers are tired, and that means they're much more likely to panic in combat. Plus, their defense against psionic attacks is based on their will, so the Warlock is probably going to have a field day with these guys. I'm really thinking the run is going to end here. This is one of those missions that if we fail, it's an instant game over. But hey, at least I was able to finally cover this mission type in one of my videos. That's a first. So there's always a silver lining, right? No matter how thin it may be. And I'm not sure if I've mentioned it yet, but we scored the breakthrough for interchangeable weapon mods, so we use them very liberally here. I can always remove them later if I want to. So everyone is rocking something on their rifle, even if it's just a stock. It's again one of those scenarios where I figure we need all the help we can get. So let's do it. Can we survive? The objective here is a bit different to the regular base defense. Advent aren't trying to board the Avenger this time. They're trying to blow it up with this giant cannon. Now the big gun and some other smaller guns will gradually wear down the Avenger's HP over time. It starts at 400, and if it reaches 0, well then it's game over for us. Our goal is to eliminate all the cannons and clear the area of enemies. Now thankfully there aren't any enemy reinforcements, so we just got to deal with the ones who are here, and our only time limit is how long it takes Advent to destroy the ship. We find the first lot of enemies as soon as we set foot off the Avenger platform, and with 10 soldiers that's 20 slots for utility items that we have available. So we have quite a few options, and I've made sure to bring plenty of EMP bombs to help us against the mechanical opponents. Now I did get a glimpse of some chrysalids behind these guys, so we don't want to move too far forward. That's just going to activate them as well and make our problems even worse. Instead, we just want to take up position and just attempt those 35% shots at the trooper. It's certainly not ideal, that's for sure. But nonetheless, we do still manage to take down both the trooper and the lancer, and as for the mech, well, it gets stunned from an EMP. So a pretty good first turn. Then of course the Warlock himself is gonna appear, and he's picked up a new strength since we saw him last. Oh, low profile! Oh no! Oh dear. Yeah, I'd pretty much lost my mind by this stage. I don't see any way we're getting out of this alive. Also, he's spawning 4 spectral zombies at a time now. So much for no enemy reinforcements. And he's going to do this every 2 or 3 turns. Now the zombies themselves aren't a big deal, but there are 2 problems they pose. Firstly, they're going to slow us down, and every turn we spend attacking these things, well that's another turn the cannons have to damage the Avenger. Initially, our ship's HP is going down slowly, but once the big gun starts firing, it takes about 80 HP away in a single hit. The second issue is if these things spawn while we're trying to deal with another pod, we may very quickly find ourselves overwhelmed by the enemy's numbers, so that could be really bad. Nonetheless, we do fend them off for the time being, and I actually think we've gotten lucky here as we score line of sight on one of the smaller cannons without activating the chrysalids. Turns out I'm wrong though. Once we destroy the object, it explodes and it activates the lids anyway, and we're nearly out of action points for this turn since we spent so many on the zombies. 3 of the lids survive our limited attacks, but tactical analysis comes in super clutch. Only 1 of the 3 enemies is able to reach us, and it misses with its attack. So that continental bonus may have just saved the entire campaign. Then it's our turn again, and we can hit back, we obliterate these nightmarish monstrosities, and we're ready to move on. The smaller cannons come in groups of 2, so there's a second one here that we can blow up, and then I'm planning to move on the big one since it does far more damage than the smaller turrets. But as we push forward, we have a pod with an Archon, Trooper, and Purifier activate. So it looks like we're going to have to deal with them first. We get multiple hair trigger procs on this turn, And we're just using so many of them now, that long run proportion is doing its thing, and we're getting those activations even though the individual chance of any one single hair trigger activating is quite low. And long story short, the whole pod gets murked. Great work by the rookies here. It is nice having 10 of them though, that gives us a decent amount of firepower. Then the big cannon fires, and you can see how quickly the Avenger's HP depletes. After that, the exact scenario I mentioned with the zombies occurs. We've got an Andromedon and 2 Advent underlings activating, while the Warlock sends 4 zombies our way at the same time. So just like that, we went from no enemies to now having a whole bunch of them all coming for us at once. We use Lee Sin and JoJo's dual strike on the Andromedon. Now I'd much rather save this single use ability for the Warlock himself, but these are desperate times. We can't afford to leave the Andromedon in first form, or have any of those spectral zombies blow up on us. So we need to go all out here, just inflict as much damage as we can, otherwise we're not going to make it to the Warlock anyway. Once the Andromedon's in second form, I opt for an EMP bomb with Shockwave. I'm hoping we get a lucky shutdown here. Yes! Yeah! Yeah, that was clutch. And I cannot emphasize enough just how stressed I was on this mission. My hands were quite literally shaking. I'm honestly surprised I didn't make any misclicks. Just so much pressure on this one. Anyway, we also have a single flashbang, and as we were deploying, I wasn't sure about bringing this thing as it meant losing a plasma grenade, but I'm certainly glad I brought it. It comes in clutch here, shutting down the Purifier and the Lancer. Well, mostly. Of course, the Lancer still scores a crit, because why wouldn't it? But JoJo is alive, and that's much better than being unconscious, which could have happened from a melee attack. So I'm calling this one a win. If only barely. And even though our boy is alive, he does panic. This also causes Nemris to panic as well. And in his panic, this genius runs directly into some flames and sets himself on fire. Like, guys, it was one attack, and we now have our entire turn to annihilate these bad guys. We're totally fine here, and you bozos are freaking out over nothing. But yeah, that's what the tired status will do to your troops. They'll lose their nerve at the drop of a hat. Now the soldiers who aren't completely yellow-bellied take down the rest of the opponents, no thanks to Leo who misses a 94% shot. I mean, given Lee Sin is kind of the hero of this run, I guess someone had to replace his usual shenanigans, and this guy seemingly wants the job. On our next turn, Nemris can heal JoJo, but I'm still worried. Even after being healed, it'll be very easy for some of these enemies to finish him with a single hit. So we'll try and be careful here. And when I say be careful, I mean make a totally stupid misplay, of course. See, we get line of sight on one of the smaller cannons again, and again I take aim at it thinking we don't have to worry about the enemies, and again it causes a pod to activate. Now 1 time is unlucky, 2 times is a pattern. So I know now in the future not to shoot at these things unless we're ready to deal with the opponents. Lesson learned. That's not going to help us right now though, so I opt to burn through our one and only Mimic Beacon. If our rookies get hit with a psionic bomb from one of these codexes, that could be disastrous. And with that in mind, of course, one of the codexes totally ignores the Mimic Beacon and instead psionic bombs us. Because of course it does. Luckily, a few of our troops are rocking auto-loaders. Those weapon mods are coming in handy. These guys are able to move away from the blast zone and still attack, and that's pretty much keeping the entire run alive at this point. So, auto-loaders for the win, it seems. We are able to wipe out the codexes, and then we push forward to the big cannon. Now, it has oodles of HP, but thankfully there's no enemies around to worry about. It takes a few attacks, but after the big gun goes boom, we then turn our attention to the final smaller cannon and destroy that one as well. And with all these guns no longer attacking the Avenger, we now have no more time limit for the rest of the mission. We can take as long as we please to finish this one up. So I figure we're just going to stay where we are and use Overwatch. It's a tried and true strategy. It's been working well for us so far. We might as well keep doing it. Of course, it takes no time at all for a gatekeeper to patrol into us, and this was absolute nonsense. It gets a free attack and just one-shots our boy Shockwave. From his death, multiple other soldiers then panic. And as if this thing attacking immediately isn't garbage enough, look at this as our turn begins. It's not even in line of sight. And yeah, after working so hard to keep this mission going, losing a soldier to this kind of jank is just so frustrating. I was super salty about this on stream. It's this type of nonsense that's the reason I don't feel bad about reloading the game earlier when I destroyed the GTS. This is a must-win mission, and 30% of our team is now unavailable this turn just because the game doesn't work properly. It's infuriating. But I'm not going to be defeated by jank. We've still got a couple of EMPs left, and now's the time to use them. We send that obnoxious cheating egg to the deepest depths of hell where it belongs. Then our boy Leo misses a 92% shot on the Codex. Yep, this guy really is desperate to be the new Lee Sin, isn't he? Thankfully, his hair trigger procs, and he does make the second shot. So a very minor redemption there. But yeah, this is the state of this game. The enemy gets a free attack that one-shots us, meanwhile we're struggling to make a 92% roll. It's just great, isn't it? We finally reach the Warlock himself, and things go from bad to worse. He summons in 2 priests and then mind scorches 4 of our troops. And yeah, that's the risk we run when clustering our soldiers together. But also, if we spread out, we risk activating more enemies, and there's still a sector pod somewhere on this map. So no matter what we do, there's always a risk involved. We use the Shredstorm cannon, and it turns out this attack sucks at destroying cover. It did destroy the cover with the Viper King, but not here, so that's kind of annoying. And speaking of that sector pod, here it is. It must have been caught in the blast radius of the big cannon when it blew up, because this thing has hardly any health left. And that's the best news we've had in a while. So I think this one is our final EMP that we throw its way, and we take the sector pod down. On the enemy turn, one of the priests gets set on fire, and this is actually really bad for us. Burning shuts down its special abilities, so its only option is to shoot. And Bismarck, of course, takes a crit, because what else would possibly happen other than Advent scoring a crit? A mind control or sustain would honestly have been better. At least that doesn't hurt our HP. And speaking of, the second priest uses sustain on Valdra. And yeah, that actually won't harm her, it'll just mean we can't use her for a turn. Now I think that's a much more preferable outcome. Now both the priests have taken cover on this car. I'm thinking if we can blow it up with a plasma grenade, that could do big damage to both of them. Unfortunately, the superstar of this mission, Nemrus, has other ideas. See, Bismarck gets mind controlled. Yeah, it's a bad turn for him, but this causes Jojo to panic again. And him panicking, yet again, causes Nemrus to panic as well. It's like this guy sees someone else losing their mind and he's just like, yeah, that looks fun, I gotta get in on that. He was also one of the ones who panicked when we lost Shockwave too. So this is the 3rd time this mission this dude has lost his nerve. And the really annoying part is that Nemrus is by the car. So if I want to blow it up to hurt the priests, he's gonna get caught in the blast. Obviously we don't want that. Not to mention we just had 4 of our 9 remaining rookies become unavailable this turn. So yeah, it's definitely not going well. I do have a plan though. Because they're bonded, Killzone can move next to Nemrus to remove the panic. I really should have kept these guys next to each other the whole time, but when we're trying to take down an endless onslaught of enemies, while also moving up on the Warlock to try to flank him, that's sometimes easier said than done. Anyway, point is, with the panic removed, Nemrus can move away from the vehicle. Theoretically, that allows us to destroy it. In practice, there's no plasma grenades available. Now I'm pretty sure we still have at least one left, so it must be on one of the incapacitated troops. And that means we're not destroying the car this turn. Instead, Nemris is going to have to take an 84% flanked shot on the priest, and do you think he's going to land that attack? This mission is seriously making me hate this game. I've done so well to get this far, and it's all just coming undone from jank and the worst RNG imaginable. The mind-controlled Bismarck takes aim at Killzone and lands a massive crit. This causes Killzone to panic and enter Berserk mode, so he immediately fires back at Bismarck and murks him. These guys can't hit the side of a barn when they're firing at the bad guys, but let them aim their guns at each other and they never miss. They're handing out crits like they're Bethesda with Skyrim re-releases. And my goodness, was I salty here. Genuinely, this mission was making me question if I even want to make XCOM 2 content anymore. And if this had gone badly from the get-go, that would be one thing. As soon as the mission started, we just got completely trounced. But what makes this so annoying is that we've been playing this mission for an hour at this point. And for the longest time, things were actually looking pretty good. But now everything's just unraveling right at the end. It's like the game wants to maximize the time the Twitch viewers and I have wasted on this garbage mission. In a sliver, a tiny spark of light in an infinite universe of darkness, we've at least dealt with all the lesser enemies. One priest is the only thing still alive apart from the Warlock, and Kaseki can take it down with a stock and Overwatch. Sustain did not help that priest in this instance. So now it's just us and the Warlock. We've lost 2 soldiers, several of those who remain are damaged, and even more are getting panicked or dazed seemingly every single turn. We're beaten, bruised, bloodied, but not yet defeated. It's time to make your final stand, rookies. It's either gonna be that skullet-headed rectal cavity or you. So please, for all that is good and decent in this world, please don't let it be you. Somehow, 51 enemies later, we've done it. For reference, the Shadow Chamber told us 25 enemies, so the Warlock essentially doubled the enemy count with the amount of summons he called in. This was as garbage as fighting a Phoenix Point Acheron. And I wasn't even relieved when we won. I was just trash-talking the game for being a cheating little so-and-so. This mission may be the worst thing I've ever done on this channel. The unending hatred this mission caused to stir in the umbral depths of my soul was a truly surreal experience. I despised this mission. The good news is we are now given a reprieve. The Warlock's power level reduces after this, so it'll be a while before he can attack us again. And I plan to have finished this campaign one way or another before that happens. The bad news is, well, look at our barracks. So many soldiers out for such a long time. So it's looking like some self-deletion squad missions may be on the menu for the foreseeable future. At least until our regular soldiers are healthy again. But on a more macro level, and it causes me great pain to have to say this, beating that filth Warlock mission actually puts us in a better position overall. See, before he launched that attack, I was trying to beeline to the final battle. I figured hitting the network tower before the Warlock attacked was the best course of action. Now, of course, we weren't able to do that, we were too slow on the story research, but now that the attack has come and gone, we're not under any immediate deadlines. Until another Chosen becomes powerful enough to attack us, or the Avatar project maxes out with no way of reducing it, there's really no need for us to rush anymore. We can take our time to level up some more bonds, acquire more Elerium cores, and maybe even grab some extra repeaters if we're really lucky. All of these things will give us a better chance of success in the final mission. So playing through that garbage may have been better in the long run. And like I said, I don't like having to admit that, but it is the truth. We have a Guerilla op, and there's only 8 enemies according to the Shadow Chamber. Now, a number that low, plus the first enemy listed being an Archon, well, both of those things are good indicators that the Archon King is going to be here. So when dealing with the first 2 pods, I'm wanting to avoid using our best gear like the Shredstorm Cannon. We also don't want to move up for flanks, as we could stumble into the King. So our offensive options are pretty limited, to the point I end up just letting a Stun Lancer attack us. Now this is risky since it could KO Killzone taking him out of the mission, but I think it's honestly the less risky option, and it pays off as Killzone survives and only loses 1 action point. Now once these lesser enemies are dealt with, we can then creep through the nearby building with Sally and Mia to get line of sight on the objective. The girls can destroy it, and now we have no time limit to worry about. So we're going to spread the troops out to avoid the King's blazing pinions, and from there, Overwatch camping is the go-to strat. Sure enough, the big man himself soon emerges from the fog of war. This is going to be interesting. We begin by using soldiers beyond his line of sight to eliminate his Archon sidekick. This just gives us 1 less enemy that we need to worry about. After that's taken care of, I want to use the Shredstorm on the King. Problem is, one of our own soldiers is in the way, and repositioning here is risky. If the Archon King gets line of sight even for a single tile, he's gonna get a reaction turn. So instead, I opt to Overwatch with everyone still outside line of sight, and then we'll use a grenade with Sally instead. The main thing we want to do is shred this guy's armor, while denying him as many reactions as possible. He does fire back at our girl, but luckily misses. So all that's left for our turn is a final shot with glass cannon, and the King only moves up with his reaction. He doesn't actually attack. As he does this, we inflict more damage with Overwatch. So this is actually going quite well so far, and that is certainly unexpected. So now it's a new turn, and with the King having repositioned, we now can safely Shredstorm him. And even better, 2 civilians get caught in the crossfire. The downside is that the King uses his reaction to grab Sally and lifts her into the air, so she may be about to take a beating. I'm wanting to use Dual Shot with Nemris and Killzone. They both have repeaters, so it'll maximise the chance of one of them activating. Sadly, Killzone doesn't have line of sight. There's a platform above him that's blocking his view, so that option's out. and here I decide to attack with glass cannon. I figure if the king returns to ground level, then Killzone should have line of sight and maybe we can use dual shot then. Well, glass cannon makes the 58% hit, saving Sally from the grab attack. So that's really good, but from here my plan doesn't go to, well, plan. Instead of returning to the ground, the king opens a portal to escape. Now this isn't a terrible outcome. We fended him off while taking 0 damage ourselves. That is an incredible accomplishment for a bunch of rookies. But of course, we do have one more chance to attack him before he leaves. And here's the thing, Nemrus has a 67% shot. He also has a repeater, so I figure, let's do the attack. We have nothing to lose. So let's do it.
I am eager to begin examining the subject as soon as we can get it back to the lab. We might as well take advantage of Dr. Valen's existing experiment. I have no intention of
Yes! Yeah, this was incredible. My mood did a complete 180 from the previous mission. I now felt like the king of the world, and Nemrus has well and truly redeemed himself. This guy went from the most embarrassing performance of a lifetime in the previous outing to single-handedly shifting the entire run in our favour on this deployment. Absolutely unreal. Having the Icarus armor now gives us some great utility on the tactical layer, like this Guerilla op where we activate 2 pods at once, including a sector pod. That sounds pretty dire, and we do take some damage. Sally even goes down, but thankfully only into bleed out. As long as we can finish things up quickly, she'll be okay. And Leeson saves the day by flying down on top of the objective with the Icarus jump. He can hack this thing just in time, like literally we're on the last turn before it expires. And the dark event is a really bad one, placing extra chrysalids on missions. So I'm very happy that we're able to counter it, and without the Icarus armor, that likely would not have been possible. Even better, there's a separate dark event already active on this mission. Extra faceless are being deployed, and that's way better than chrysalids. See, we've also picked up breakthrough research for beam weapons, so our rifles are now doing 9 to 11 base damage. And that means one-shotting faceless is fairly likely, assuming we hit. So not only do we win the mission and save Sally, we pick up the resources for a second mimic beacon in the process. The good times continue on the strategic layer as we actually pick up another repeater as a scanning reward. That makes 3 we now have access to. We've still only obtained 4 throughout the entire game, and that includes checking the black market every month to see if he's selling any. He hasn't been for the whole game, and we're almost in January, so it's better late than never that we're getting these things, but it would be really nice if we'd picked up a few more. And mostly how I'm feeling right now as this run is going is, I'm just surprised. Like, how the heck are we still in this run? In fact, we're not just in it, we're actually doing quite well. This is crazy. Now the Avatar Project Max is out again, so it's off to another facility mission. For the first time though, I'm not too worried about this one since there's no alien rulers left residing at the facilities anymore. We've already activated all of them. We don't have to worry about doing that again.
Let's make sure to take it out this time.
Huh. Okay, never mind. Turns out rulers can show up at other facilities too, not just their starting one. And I mean, that makes sense in retrospect. It's a type of mission that can spawn rulers, so of course they could be there. I just never knew this was a thing. I try to avoid both facility missions and rulers as much as possible. So hey, this run has taught me something here. Now, truth be told, the Queen herself isn't the real threat. She has barely any HP left, and we can finish her with just one more attack. The bigger problem is that we've activated 3 pods at once, including her 3 Muton bodyguards. Fortunately, a meme beacon saves our hides on the enemy turn, And we do end up destroying all the enemies without taking any damage. Once again, Lee Sin being able to fly in behind the mutons proves quite useful. He can use that Icarus jump to drop in
close range
to throw a plasma grenade. This destroys the mutons' cover, giving the rest of the crew a flanking attack. Jojo can then provide a bonded action to the Lee Sinator, where he rolls a maximum damage hit and one-shots the final muton. It's just crazy how good Lee Sin is this run. The man is unstoppable. Once we get to the facility proper, we use a grenade to make our own entrance. This allows us to enter, plant the X4, and evac all on the one turn. There is a sector pod still patrolling about somewhere, and while I'm confident that we could beat it in a fight, avoiding it will save us some time. And the plan to skip that encounter works perfectly here. We make it out safely. After this, a fair amount of time passes, and we're kind of just stalling while we max out our soldiers' bonds and keep trying to gather useful loot like Elerium cores and repeaters. And during this time, we don't suffer any real setbacks. One Guerilla op we do evac out of, but it's after we've managed to stop the Dark event. So our rookies really are holding things down on the tactical layer. We've reached a point where we're able to handle just about anything the game throws at us. And one of the big advantages we have is that after finishing the story research, the game is no longer spawning council missions. Those have been the most dangerous for pretty much the entire run, so not having to worry about them anymore is a big positive. I mean, not for the guys who got captured and now we can't rescue them, but in terms of keeping the soldiers we have alive and breathing, well, yeah, it's a positive. And honestly, it's the strategic layer that proves the real problem. Not only has the Warlock reached maximum strength again, but the Hunter has too, so we're looking at another chosen base defense at any moment. I've kept the same 2 resistance orders the whole game since we couldn't utilize any more than 2, but towards the end I finally changed decoys and deceptions to weak points. This will grant us +1 shred damage. Decoys and deceptions has been vital in delaying the chosen leveling up, but we don't need it anymore. I'm gonna finish this run before either the Warlock or the Hunter have a chance to attack us. The time is now, let's do this. I burned through just about all our remaining Elerium cores for powered weapons, and we get reasonably lucky scoring 3 blaster launches. We also picked up our very first superior repeater during these final weeks of the campaign, so we now have 4 repeaters total. On the 2 rifles that don't have repeaters, I've gone for a scope, hair trigger, and a stock. Now I'd much rather have repeaters over stocks, but guaranteed damage is a good consolation prize. So the network tower is first. Chorus and Leo have a max level bond, as do Sally and Mia. And normally with the network tower and final mission, I give the squads 2 separate sets of gear. Just as a bit of a role-playing thing, I imagine both missions are happening pretty much at the same time. But not in this instance. We're sharing all the best equipment across both missions. I figure we'll need all the help we can get. And yes, we do have 4 soldiers for this one. We got the intel bonus for an extra unit, and I am really thankful for this. Having that 4th soldier usually makes this mission much easier. And honestly, it's pretty absurd. Through either divine intervention or maybe just plain dumb luck, the enemies spawn a huge distance away from us. We encounter nothing on the way to the device that we need to hack. Like, there are 2 pods, but they're on the opposite side of the map, so they're not going to bother us. We're still in concealment when Leo is within dashing distance of the device. He can run in and just totally ignore the pod guarding it. Then, thanks to a bonded action from Chorus, our boy can make the hack and obtain victory. Yeah, we didn't initiate combat at all. We just ran straight to the device and won. This is the easiest network tower mission I think I've ever done in my life. The irony is not lost on me. Let's hope the final mission goes as smoothly as this one did. So this is the team. 3 sets of maximum bonds. all 4 repeaters, both mimic beacons, all the war suits and alien ruler armors we have, 3 blaster launchers and 2 shredstorm cannons. I'm also bringing a battle scanner and medikit, which may seem like strange choices. The scanner is for the assassin, and the medikit is for both the assassin and hunter. Their attacks normally cause blood loss, so we want to be able to negate that status effect. And since it's only 1 medikit, I'm just hoping we don't get hit by more than 1 attack from one of those chosen. If we do, well, we're probably losing somebody. The usual rules apply for my solo class runs here. We're not using the commander's avatar in combat, so he's just going to hang back the entire time. And the plan is to Overwatch creep and just take as much time as we need. There's no rush, and we want those Overwatch ambushes to deal some extra damage on the bad guys. We're gonna need it. Problem is, when all our Overwatch shots miss, it doesn't really help. Well, technically 1 connects, but yeah, we're gonna need much better than that. And Leeson decides now is the time to go back to his old ways, and he misses an 87% shot. So while we may need better, what we're going to get is way, way worse. From this pod, 1 codex survives, and it drops a psionic bomb on most of the squad. Now we can take it out easily, but it involves using a bonded action. Jojo with his blue screen rounds can move out of the bomb's AoE and reload his gun. Then Leeson can give him an extra action and he can one-shot the codex, no need to worry about any clones. However, having to use one of our limited bonded actions this early is far from ideal. Up next is the sector pod accompanied by a couple of shield bearers. And the Shredstorm cannon with that extra point of shred can completely strip the sector pod of its armor in a single attack. That's pretty cool. Only one of the shield bearers survives to the enemy turn, and I'm thinking we're good. It should just use its shield. That's what these guys do. It's in the name. But not this one. It actually fires at us. I don't think I have ever seen in my life one of these things firing their gun before activating their shield. That is unheard of. And I was really surprised when this thing attacked the way it did. I figured we had nothing to worry about. Thankfully, everyone is still alive, and we can take down the shield bearer on our next turn. I was actually just wanting to use the stock to inflict some minor damage with Kiseki, but he actually ends up making the 22% chance. So that's a pleasant surprise, I'll take it. Now the assassin is here and she's coming for us, but her location actually gets revealed both by the tactical analysis notification and a window that she smashes as she passes through it. So this allows me to figure out where she is and we get the drop on her. We really want to dispose of her before she can hit us back. That katana attack could be really painful. We use Dual Strike with Jojo and Leeson, another limited use ability, but I had actually forgotten that she has Planewalker. I'm not sure how I forgot that given how devastating it was the last time we had to deal with it. Nonetheless, this results in us having to use a blaster launcher to hit her again. I really want to save those launchers for the avatars in the final chamber, so using one here really sucks. Nemrus has a flanked shot, and if he can roll max damage, he'll finish her off. Sadly, we don't get that, and she hangs on with a single point of HP. Now, while that is disappointing, fortunately, she teleports back to Leeson, who has a plasma grenade ready to smoke her. But again, that's yet another limited use item that we're having to burn through very early into this mission. And here I'm starting to worry that we're going to fall to attrition. Once we use up all these items and abilities, our rookies may start to really struggle. So with the enemies cleared, we're moving forward very slowly, but it seems no matter how slow we are, there's just no pods patrolling into our Overwatch. It's always us moving just a couple of tiles forward and revealing the bad guys on our turn. That denies us a whole bunch of free attacks. And because of this, we actually end up struggling against this pod of 4 Vipers. It may not sound like much, but some of them are in full cover and there's no high ground we can reach to improve our aim, and our chances of hitting these things are just way too low. And look at this one, you gotta love it. Jojo misses a 64% shot, only for his hair trigger to proc so that he can miss a second time all over again. Yeah, really helpful there, buddy. And after a bunch of missed shots and a dodge, we end up relying on a meme beacon to keep us safe. And it's a recurring theme here. I hate having to use this item so early, but we cannot risk these Vipers poisoning any of our troops. And even tactical analysis doesn't necessarily help us here, since the Vipers can use poison spit without having to have line of sight on the target. Now the Vipers are vanquished on our next turn, but we're yet again having to burn through more resources. The next pod is the exact same scenario. We move up a few tiles and trigger some mutons on our turn, not theirs, but it's even worse here. The rage suit causes one of them to panic, and in their panic they shoot at a nearby pod that actually wasn't in our line of sight. Now this not only causes the pod to activate, so that's double the number of enemies we now have to deal with, the muton actually shoots a codex, causing it to clone. And just like the Vipers, tactical analysis doesn't really help us with codexes. They can still teleport on top of us and cause all kinds of problems. So now we've got a bunch of Archons, mutons, and codexes. And here I was honestly pretty stumped about what to do. There's just too many enemies and we don't have the means of stopping them. I eventually decide maybe we can engage some of the Archons and Codexes while staying out of line of sight of the Mutons. The big boys are a little bit further back. So we burn through another consumable in Lee Sin's Icarus jump ability. He murks one of the Codexes, and then we use Jojo's final bonded action to give him a shot on the second. The height bonus means Lee Sin has a 99% chance to hit, and while he does make the shot, it of course results in a dodge. This means the Codex gets to clone, so instead of having one less enemy, we now have one more. Literally, we would have been better off if the shot missed completely. And the thing that really annoys me is that dodge never procs on 100% shots. So if Lee Sin had literally one more point of aim, one more covert op where we could buff his aim, maybe the inside knowledge resistance order, just anything that could have buffed his aim by a single point more, and that codex would be gone. Instead, it's not gone. There's now two of them. And I was becoming extremely salty here, to the point I actually considered not putting the stream on the archive channel. I was full of rage. But I figure people may want to see the run in full, so that's what I have to give them, warts and all. Not that I'm going to give anyone warts. Let's move on. On the enemy turn, we're bombarded with a truly horrendous onslaught. One of the Archons uses blazing pinions, a Codex drops a psionic bomb on us, and another Codex hits Lee Sin, taking about half his health. The only good news is that tactical analysis has saved us from any attacks from the mutons. So at this point I'm getting really frustrated and hopelessness is beginning to set in. That one muton panicking has just thrown our chances of survival right down the toilet. So I'm definitely not playing at my best, and I do something really stupid here. I use the Rage Strike with Killzone on one of the Archons. And the reason this is such a bad move is because it means leaving him out of cover. The Archon still has way too much HP anyway, so we didn't even finish it off. I would have been better off leaving him in cover. He'd be safer there. So this one's definitely on me. In order to help keep Killzone alive, we deploy our final Mimic Beacon. But when there's this many enemies, it doesn't really help that much. The beacon goes down really quickly, and then the mutons open fire on Killzone. Now thankfully he does survive, but he's down to a minuscule amount of HP. And I gotta say, Jojo is doing absolutely horrible on this mission. He misses a 74% chance to eliminate the Archon. He is missing way too much. And I know these aren't super high percentage hits, but they're also not super low either, and that's not stopping this guy from missing them, left, right and centre. And right after Jojo, Oleron decides to miss a 74% chance as well. And there's really nothing to be done when this happens. If our troops cannot make their shots, well, we're sitting ducks. Nemrus thankfully can down the Archon, and I'm thinking we're finally getting some good luck as his hair trigger procs. Maybe we can take down something else. But it turns out it doesn't matter, he can't attack again since he's out of ammo. And what I'm about to do here should demonstrate how dire the situation has become. We end up using a Shred Storm cannon on a 1 HP codex. There's literally no other way to attack it, and we cannot risk it teleporting and getting a flanked shot on us. So that's an entire heavy weapon gone, all just to get rid of a single point of HP on one codex. And if either Oleron or Jojo could have made their shot, we wouldn't have had to do this. As the mutons advance on us, there is a chance they'll panic whenever they get line of sight on kill zone, and that does help in managing the number of them we're having to deal with at once. If one of them panics, well, it can't do anything until the next turn, so we can kind of take these guys on in waves. But even that's not enough to stop the last one hitting Lee Sin through full cover and bringing him down to a miserable 3 HP. This is looking grim. And I choose not to use the medikit here. Sure, I could heal Lee Sin or Killzone, but I just don't see the point. If the hunter hits someone with his rifle and inflicts bleed damage, they'll slowly lose HP until they're down for the count. Our only means of stopping bleed is the medikit. So even though Killzone and Lee Sin are in a precarious situation, for now they're okay, and I'd hate to heal them when we don't actually need to, only for someone else to cop a bleed, and then we're unable to help them later on. So we continue pushing on really slowly while overwatching, and the next pod of mechs, well, it doesn't patrol into our Overwatch either. We activate these things on our turn. But truth be told, mechs are actually a fairly inoffensive enemy. They can't take cover, so our chance to hit is normally no worse than about 70%. And compared to that 20% shield bearer that was in full cover, well, 70 seems pretty good. Then there's the next pod, the one with 2 gatekeepers. And take a guess, do you think it patrols into our Overwatch on its turn? Or do you think we activate it on our turn like every single other pod on this mission minus the first one? And yeah, the answer is the obvious one. And despite using another blaster launcher, there's not really anything we can do here. The gatekeepers have way too much HP, and on top of that they're supported by codexes. And in some ways the codexes are actually worse since they can shut down our weapons with Psionic Bomb. Now, Lee Sin can take down one of the codexes, but for the other, we're relying on Jojo with a 68% chance to hit. Now, my hopes are very low here, but he does actually connect, only to score a dodge. Killzone takes aim at the clone with its 3 HP and rolls a huge damage crit that would have one-shot it even at full health. Really wish we could have scored that with Jojo, when it would have actually made a difference. On the enemy turn, both gatekeepers descend on Jojo, and here one of them uses a melee attack. I'm not sure I've ever seen that before. I mean, it's better than using its AoE ability, so I'll take it. But sadly, 2 gatekeepers is just too much, and our man goes down. Then there were 5. One of the eggs is down to only 2 HP. Nemrus misses his 40% shot, which is understandable, but his hair trigger procs so he can shoot at it again, and since he has a stock, well, he actually eliminates it off the 2 misses. That's pretty cool. Now the second one survives, but thankfully misses its attack, so we haven't taken any more damage. Meanwhile, the hunter joins the fight and lands a stun grenade on Kaseki. And honestly, I prefer this over him shooting with the rifle. At least the stun grenade doesn't hurt our HP. So finally, after like 3 turns of fighting this stupid pod, we're able to send the second gatekeeper to the deepest pits of the Shadow Realm. But turns out it's all for naught. The hunter summons in 2 berserkers, and just like that we have near 100 HP of enemy health that we now need to chew through. Then the hunter sets his sights on Lee Sin, hitting him with the rifle. Now Lee Sin does actually survive the initial attack, but only on 1 HP, so he's instantly sent into bleed out as our turn begins. And this is the issue. Even if I had healed his HP earlier, he would still succumb to the bleed damage. It would just take an extra turn or 2. We really just needed the hunter to attack someone at full HP and then we could have healed them. The problem is, we don't have too many soldiers at full HP left. And then perhaps the most offensive part of all. Killzone lands a 55% hit, and his repeater actually procs. We get the 10% chance of an execution. And what am I talking about offensive? We just took out the hunter. This is a good thing, right? Well, I'll give you past Drifter's take on the matter. Too little, too late, brother. Wish you could have done that 10 turns ago. Might have made a difference. Not now. Yeah, like I said, I was really salty by this stage. And this execution proc did legitimately annoy me. The 11th hour has passed. We needed that proc against the Archons, or the Mutons, or the Assassin, or the plethora of codexes trying to jam our guns. The hair triggers have been really reliable this mission, activating multiple times, but the repeaters have totally let us down. Going all the way back to the first challenge run I ever did, the Sparks Only run, repeaters carried us on that mission. They came in super clutch. Here, they've left us high and dry. And yeah, getting one now after we've already lost our best soldier, it's like an insult, as if the game is mocking me. This is pure agony. Whatever. The Berserkers are deader than my will to live, and we still have 4 rookies left for the final chamber. That's actually the same number we started the game with, no less. Maybe it's a bit poetic. Either way, it's time to wrap this thing up one way or another. And it's not just having less soldiers, even though that obviously is pretty horrible, but we're also down to 2 repeaters, a single bonded action, and no mean beacons or heavy weapons. We are running really dry on resources. We start by healing Killzone. I honestly don't think it'll matter since his health is still so low, it's unlikely he's gonna survive any enemy attack regardless. But it's better than nothing. Now as combat begins, we just shoot at the avatar hoping for a miracle execution, which, spoiler alert, we don't get. And the thing is, the Archons could very well murk one of our low HP soldiers in a single hit, but I'm ignoring them anyway, mainly because there simply aren't any other options. We need to get rid of the avatar, that's how we win the mission. And the big boss's teleporting is just the worst. It makes hitting this thing incredibly difficult. Like this attack here, Nemris has a 15% chance to hit the guy. Obviously we're not going to be able to do that, but I'm counting on the stock to do its job since even that minimal amount of damage will cause the avatar to relocate. Maybe we'll have a better chance of hitting it when it does that. Killzone misses his 65% shot, so that sucks. But Oleron has a 67% chance, and not only does he make it, we do indeed get the repeater proc. Now that's really good that the avatar is gone, but on stream I was in such a foul mood I was even salty about this, complaining that the execution was only obtained on the very last action of our turn. See, Oleron was actually the first unit we attacked with this turn, and his hair trigger activated and that gave him a second shot. Imagine if that first attack had procced the repeater instead. That could have been a game changer. We may have been able to murk at least one of the Archons as well. But because it happened at the end of the turn, well, it's the end of the turn, we can't do anything else. Now thankfully the flying boys don't do any damage. One goes for blazing pinions and the other sets up Overwatch. So that's a good thing. What's not a good thing is the Warlock has arrived. So just like the avatars, unless we get a super clutch execution, I don't think there's much we can do to this guy. Oleron thankfully baits the Overwatch and avoids it, and then we focus on the Archons. We at least have a chance to defeat one of them, or maybe even both this turn, so I figure that's a better use of our limited firepower than the Warlock, who has way too much armor and HP for us to get through. I should also mention here, we have 0 options for shredding at this point, so armor is a real problem. The second avatar appears and it has 2 spectres and 2 priests as bodyguards. If these things start mind controlling and cloning us, they could shut down our rookies extremely quickly. Not to mention some vipers from the other side of the map are moving in on us as well. So not only are there way too many enemies on the map for us to deal with, the Warlock is now between us and the newly arrived avatar. So we're gonna have to go through him. We take some shots, hoping and praying for an execution, but no luck. We don't get it. And the enemy turn is a real doozy. Oleron gets bound by a viper, so he's incapacitated. Kaseki then gets mind-controlled by the Avatar, so that's now half our team lost. And one of the priests uses Holy Warrior on the Avatar, giving it even more health. Now it's going to be even more difficult to get Kaseki back. The only real good news is that by the time the Warlock's turn comes up, AI shackling prevents him from being able to attack us. And while that's good in theory, the reality is that shackling only kicks in when Advent has too many units active. So Skullet Boy is losing his turn because we're completely overwhelmed. So it's not as great a situation to be in as you might think. I move Killzone in, desperately hoping for a repeater proc on the Avatar. Now he actually takes an Overwatch shot and receives 4 damage. If we hadn't used that medikit on him, he would have gone down from that attack. So it turns out healing him wasn't a waste after all. Now, we need him to hit the 71% and get the execution. Sadly, while he does land the attack, the Avatar survives. In fact, because of Holy Warrior, its HP isn't even affected at all. And this means it doesn't actually teleport, and I thought that was interesting. Now I could give him a bonded action with Nemris, we do have one left, but Killzone is actually out of ammo, so even if we give him another action, he's not going to be able to make a second shot. And Nemris doesn't have a repeater himself, so it is literally impossible for us to murk the Avatar this turn. On the next turn, the third and final Avatar appears, so at the very least, we've made it to the final boss. I do think it's too little too late though. The second Avatar annihilates Nemris with a Null Lance, and since they're bonded, this causes Killzone to go berserk. That means we have no rookies available to control for our turn. Only the Commander's Avatar, who we can't do anything with. So Advent gets another turn pretty much instantly, and check this out. A Gatekeeper spawns right on top of Killzone. Now, for whatever reason, the Warlock seemingly isn't bound by shackling anymore. I'm not sure why, if anything there's more enemies now. But whatever, he aims his rifle at our Avatar and takes it down. That's an instant game over. Even though Killzone is still active on the field, it doesn't matter. This one's a loss. The entire run was just ended by the Warlock himself. This man has finally obtained his revenge for all the smack I've talked about him in these videos. And yeah, this one hurt. To work so hard on this run, to overcome so many obstacles, only to fall over at the final hurdle. It's rough. And so it's official. The rookie's only run ends in failure. Not quite the underdog story I was hoping for, but that's life. Sometimes things just don't work out. Now, I did actually replay the final mission just to see if it was possible, and we do much better the second time around. I think the main difference is the pods are much more cooperative in patrolling into our Overwatch. They just weren't doing that the first time, and it made things a lot more difficult. The second time around, while it still isn't easy by any means, we do make it to the final chamber with all 6 rookies. And I'm thinking this may be the difference maker. Lee Sin and Jojo are a big power boost for us. But the RNG just isn't working. Like on the avatar here, we have 2 55% shots and a 74% shot. All 3 attacks miss. That's about a 5% chance of happening. And this basically puts us on the back footing for the entire fight. See, I wanted to keep our soldiers clustered close together, centralise our firepower, minimise enemy line of sight, use bonds to counter psionic attacks by standing next to each other. There's lots of reasons we want to huddle up. But missing all these attacks is forcing us to spread out. Then later on, Jojo misses a 92% shot on the Warlock, which I know you are going to miss a 92% shot every now and then, but the point that I'm making is that we're not getting good RNG. We're getting average to completely horrible RNG, and it's just a disaster. So once again, we are defeated. Now I try the final chamber a 3rd time and we do get closer. We eliminate 2 avatars, but we just still cannot get the 3rd. So yeah, I gave it a valiant effort, but this one I just can't do. For the first time in quite a while on this channel, our challenge run has resulted in failure. We could not beat XCOM 2 War of the Chosen with only rookies. Now I was super bummed out by the end of this. To the point I was working on the script at 2 AM after the stream because I just couldn't sleep. I needed to pen my thoughts and frustrations and emotions to digital paper before my brain would let me rest. And the part that was most annoying was that I did have a strategy. I wanted to cover one corner of the room, trying to deal with the enemies in smaller waves. But the RNG just wouldn't allow me to get that quick elimination on the first avatar and then group the soldiers together the way I wanted to. And honestly, that's probably a sign as well. If I've attempted the same strat multiple times but it just keeps going wrong, well, that probably means the strat isn't all that viable. Now, for the record, I do think it's possible to beat that final chamber. We just need really good RNG. Like if you save scummed every turn, yeah, I'm pretty sure it could be done. But that's not how I like to play this game, so I'm happy to call this one a loss. I think I did really well, and I'm proud of how far I took these rookies. I have no shame in admitting that the final chamber was just too much for me to overcome. And if anything, I think this run has taught me that I really need to stop getting so salty when things go wrong in the game. Like, I lost this challenge run. So what? This channel has never been about serving my ego. I'm not one of these people who attaches my self-worth to how good I am at a video game. The whole reason I started doing YouTube was because I like telling stories, and video games are the medium I use to do that. Above all, these runs are meant to be entertaining, they're meant to be fun, and sometimes I think I forget that. I'm going to try not to forget going forward. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I win or lose, as long as you guys enjoyed the ride. And I think it took me losing this one to finally understand that. Now, on another note, I know some people have beaten the game with only rookies, and I believe those people allowed non-rookies on covert ops. I think that would make a noticeable difference. The biggest being that you could actually hunt the Chosen and eliminate them so they wouldn't be on the final mission. Plus, we'd have a lot more opportunity to buff our rookie stats via covert ops. So, who knows, maybe I'll try this run again one day, but with that change to the rules. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd like to see. But for right now, I think I want to take a break from XCOM 2 for a little bit. There's plenty of other games I want to cover on the channel, so I might make some of those videos. This run was really exhausting, and I just need some time to recharge. But make no mistake, I will return to XCOM 2 before too long. I do have some ideas for non-solo class runs that I want to try, and I think you guys will find interesting. Just not right now. As always, thank you for watching and giving me your time. If you liked the video, please consider doing the usual things of liking, commenting and subscribing. It helps the video reach a wider audience. Also, if you want early access to videos like this one, you can support me for a few bucks a month through either Patreon or a YouTube membership. The links to both of those are in the description if you're interested. Beyond that, I am well and truly done for the day. So I'll catch you next time, and have a great day.